Board, Tuesday, September 6th, 2022. Right now, we do have a quorum of the board present with Norm Google, Rob Nato, and Andrea Folsom. Jim O'Brien is on his way, as is Dulcie Lipoma. Dulcie is joining us by Zoom. I don't know, Dulcie, do you want to just listen in, or would you like us to approve you to be part of the meeting?
I just listen.
Okay.
But I'm happy to do it, whatever, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
No, that's no problem. I know you were on your way from Boston. So once Dulcie gets here, that will be great as well. But because we have a quorum, we can go ahead and begin. We are also joined, I'm sorry, I should introduce everybody. We have our two student reps. So we have Flo and Noah. Welcome, both of you. We're so glad that you guys were able to join us today. We've got Jody and her board administrative assistant. So says secretary, but it's here. We've got Superintendent Michael Flynn, Michelle Clark, our business administrator, and Beth Gagnon, our curriculum and assessment director. Just put that all around. And up in the stands, we've got Matt Stone working the video. All right, that's all of us. Let's go ahead and stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Flag right around the corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So because of a recent change to the state statutes, we now need to ensure that our public comment portion is open for 30 minutes. The way that we're going to do that is we've decided to go back to 2 public comments. So we're going to have 1 public comment right away in the beginning of the meeting, and we'll have a second public comment later on in the meeting. So if you don't make it to the first public comment, you can always make it to the second public comment. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open up our first public comment period. All right. Seeing as no one is interested in public comment, I'm going to go ahead and leave it open. It'll be open. We're going to continue on the meeting. If you do have anything you'd like to say later on, I'll sort of, even though it's open, reopen it, invite people back up to give any additional comments. All right, so moving right along, we've got student representative comments. You guys ready for this?
Yeah.
Go for it. And welcome, Jim O'Brien.
Well, thank you. It's magic. So this has been our first non-COVID start in 3 years, which has been awesome. It's been great to see everyone's faces again and see all the new faces who have come to our school. I'd like to give a props to Mr. Morrill, who's I've seen outside every day greeting us when we've arrived at school, no matter the weather. One day that sticks out to me was it was downpouring. He was out there in his raincoat saying hello to everyone, so big props to you, but it's been a great start to the new year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's not much yet.
Great, well, thank you guys again for joining us, and we've sort of changed the configuration to make you part of the conversation as well, so while we're talking, if you have any ideas, any input, just jump right in.
So we met today as a team, me, Flo, and Noah, and we have a game plan. We're going to expand this role a little bit now that we're getting back to normalcy is the word we've been calling it. So we're going to meet next week or the week after to establish some goals, same as everyone, right? So everyone has goals. We have structure and accountabilities, including the board reps. So you'll see more out of them. They're going to connect with Ms. Brown and Ms. Sindoni throughout the year as well. They're going to get into the other buildings and talk to the other students so that they're a true voice of the whole student body. So look forward to working with you guys this year and definitely bringing some new things and new ideas to the table.
All right, board comments.
None for me today, thanks.
I wonder if Norm has any comments.
I was just being respectful of the board. Wait, no. No, Just real quick, I've heard nothing but great. A lot of parents happy with the start of school. A lot of them have been really pleased with going back. Their kids are more excited going back this year than any other year, which was really great to hear. I think one of the things that really struck for me as a parent and as a board member, hearing from a lot of our students, is just the different approach that they're receiving from their building. They have new things that have been developed that we've not had in the past. My daughter came home so excited. She spent 20 minutes. That was different. That was at that was not at Maple Street last year. That's happening this year. Same thing over here at the high school. And it's just a really good feeling because when those kids like to go to school, it's now. We're back to normal, and they're really excited to be back. And I just commend the school for doing such a great job getting our kids excited to be back and to make it a safe learning environment. So thank you.
Nothing? Okay. I wanted
Wait,
to...
Dulcie?
Dulcie, did you have a comment? You did
Actually,
not
we didn't.
actually
You're not
invite
allowed,
her
Dulcie.
into the meeting, so she's listening. So, briefly, just fill you in, Dulcie is listening into the meeting, but we did not bring her into the meeting because she's on her way. So we received a really nice letter that I just wanted to share with the rest of the board. It said, it was from Kim Emerson and Steve Sherman, who are the Hopkinton School District Artists in Residence Committee. It just said, on behalf of the Hopkinton School District, we want to thank you for supporting the public funding for the State Arts Council. Through a recent grant received from the State Arts Council, we are able to invite Teresa Taylor, a teaching ceramic artist, to work with staff and students at Harold Martin School and Maple Street School. Her residency will build community through collaborative ceramic tile projects. The Artist in Residence program truly enriches our students' lives. Staff and students will feel a sense of community as they collaborate to work together to build these spaces. So I thought it was a really great letter. I thought I would share that. And just to echo Norm's comments, and Noah's comments, it was wonderful to have a start of school where we got to drop off our kids, and I saw them around 5 when we were done with sports and all of that, and they were happy and I was happy. So thank you guys. I know that this was, new for a lot of folks, but it went so well. So thank you. All right. Moving right along. We are ready for, we got some minutes. I skipped minutes, sorry. I'm going a little backwards. So we do have a whole bunch of minutes to approve. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to take a look at those. So is there a motion to approve the non-public minutes from June 14th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the board retreat held August 16th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just thank you, Bob, for hospitality.
Thank you, Rob.
And those talk.
Thank you, Rob, for tacos. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Is there a motion to approve the regular school board meeting minutes from August 16th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And finally, is there a motion to approve the special meeting minutes of the board held August 25th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's it. All right. With that, we're on to current business.
Great, thank you. So first agenda item would be our principals reports. So you will see throughout this year, the principals will be here more regularly on giving updates on what's going on, events that may be occurring. And then on the opposite meetings, you'll see the directors here. So Mr. Rizicki, Ms. Hibbert, Matt will come down from the rafters and give us some updates. So we're going to have a theme and a trend throughout the year that you're going to hear from the building level administrators and the directors, and we can certainly accommodate any requests as necessary from the board. If not, we will pick agendas or topics that they'll be targeting. So this one will be the opening of schools. You'll hear from the principals, and certainly have many questions. We're going to go from youngest to oldest in population, student population. So not the adult age, the students in the building. So Miss Brown will be first for the updates from Harold Martin.
I knew it was going to be. Hi, how are you all? Thank you for having us. So school opening was awesome. It's only been 5 days, but it feels like it's been way longer than that, and at the same time, pretty short. We kicked off a week early with the ice cream social. The PTA really helped us out by sponsoring an ice cream social on 2 nights. Students were able to come in and meet their teachers, see their classmates, get into the building, kind of familiarize themselves with it. For kindergarten, this was a really great, dry run of what it was going to be like on a real first day. Fewer tiers than I've ever seen before, which was great. I love seeing that, and it was nice to have everyone kind of come back in. Big shout out to Jackie Kleiner, our school counselor. She organized a lot of it. She also was right there with the weather app the first day because there was some rain. So every 10 minutes she came and told me the percentage of rain. Being married to an athletic director like that, I don't ever want to talk about the weather. So Jackie was right then, and I was like, okay, here we go. So the rain held out. It was great. They got to play on the playground. They all loved it. Parents had a good time, and we were able to recruit some more people for the PTA, which was also a nice piece. We did a lot of staff training this summer, so we had new staff in at Harold Martin. We had 4 new teachers. We have Mary Grace Bartolis and Callie Mara in kindergarten, Brianna Knoll in special ed, and Sylvia Osinski, I always mess it up, in reading. They're doing a great job blending right in, and they are just such a light presence in the building. So we did some work with them and Becca the first day and kind of got used to the building, and then we did a lot of kind of other training with staff, kind of making them part of the community, which was nice. One of those trainings we did was safety and security. So as I'm sure you know, we're prioritizing the safety and security this year. We had the chief and Officer Hill come in and kind of walk our staff through different scenarios, different rooms. What should you do? What do you need? Really take a look at the facilities and make sure that we were all prepared. So that was really good. We also did some training on those first days with illustrative math, which is our new math curriculum. And they really focused on that and what they needed. And then they did some training around early bird literacy as well. So really kind of kicked off the year strong with a lot of different professional developments to get them ready to go. Our first day was great. I think, I mean, it was just, there were smiles and tears. We did change our arrival dismissal. So as Mike has said, we're back, right? And we're not doing a lot of our COVID procedures. So we have kids on the playground now. So we had to move our arrival and drop off for parents back to the front of the building in front of preschool. That created a couple logistical things that we worked through, but overall the arrival has been pretty smooth. Parents pull up and teachers are right there greeting kids, getting them onto the sidewalk. They walk down to the playground, they play with their friends. We have been in the building and in our classrooms by 8:05 every day, which according to everybody else is much faster than we've been in the past, and fewer tears because they're leaving their parents up in the parking lot and then they see their friends and they kind of forget that they were upset in the first place, which has been nice. If you've been anywhere near HMS at the afternoon, dismissal is a whole different story. We are working through our dismissal plans. We are averaging over 100 kids being picked up a day. It is over 85 cars on average, and we have the buses that come in, and then we have the cars that come in, and then we have a group of parents who walk down as well. It's been a little bit tricky. We were going with the process that we used last year, and we have new staff, we have new students. Poor kindergartners forget their names by the end of the day. They have no idea who they are. I don't know everyone yet, so that slows the process down as we're going through it. But we really, I think we're doing much better and coming up with a couple of different plans. We thank everyone for their patience. I know it has been a little bit long and tiring for sure. But we're doing some things different. So we have a Walker family pickup now that those kids are getting dismissed to the main office and they're getting brought up to the Walker location. Then we have the car riders coming out, and then we have the bus riders also going at the same time. Thursday was going to be our perfect day, and then our bus arrived late, and it just spoiled the whole thing, but it was fine. We got right back on track. So we've also given all families laminated color-coded signs with their last name and a number, because believe it or not, Mason and Nathan sound very similar over a walkie-talkie, so that caused a lot of confusion. So we now have numbers and last names, and that's kind of speeding things up. You know, we're going to look how this goes. We'll make more changes as we need to. We're taking anyone's ideas and kind of doing the best we can and kind of prioritizing, though, that safety and security. So part of the problem that we ran into those first few days is parents were walking down at 2:15, 2:20 to wait outside the NPR. We're still in session. It's still school. Kids are on the playground. It was a security issue, so we've asked the parents to wait up closer to the main entrance. That way we can see them and we know who's on the playground. Most people have been very understanding and they get it. And it's just about creating new routines and new structures in place. So that's been pretty good. Today was a really exciting day. We started a new tradition. Third graders are now leading announcements in the morning. So they came, we had 2 students come down and they read the announcements, they did the pledge, they announced whose birthdays it was. Then the kids come down and they get their birthday pencil, and it was fantastic. They were very excited to be kicking off a new tradition. So we just posted a picture of them on Facebook. Ida and Meredith did fantastic. They killed it, so there's a high bar up there next. So. And then also thinking about culture and climate of our building, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up snapping turtles. So for those of you who have been around town, there is a snapping turtle that apparently lays eggs on the playground, and every spring they watch, and then I feel maybe hawks, eagles, other birds get to the eggs before the eggs hatch. Luckily, they survived the summer and they all hatched last week. So I got the first phone call that said there were snapping turtles on the playground, which made me very nervous. They did not say baby snapping turtles. So I sprinted to the playground. I don't know what I thought I was going to do. Miss Eaton was much better. She went and got Miss Nichols, because apparently she is the wildlife expert. And then Miss Nichols grabbed Miss Auberton because she's the reptile expert. I didn't know I had so many experts in my building. So they came out with baskets and we collected the snapping turtles. Then I got a whole lesson about the eggs and how thin they were and paper-like. We went on a whole excursion trying to find them. We brought those 2 down to the swampy area, but then I started getting calls from like all over the building. They were in the top parking lot. They were in this parking lot. So Miss Kleiner and I climbed under some cars to rescue a few and put them in our baskets. We also had a few down the storm drain, so then we called the police department and the fire department and the highway department, and they came and removed the drains and jumped in, saved the turtles. The kids thought it was great. They all applauded like, you know, the heroes they were. So it was quite the day, and we had so many kids really excited about the turtles, and they told me all about how they watched them in the spring and everything that's happened. You know, and I had one kid say, I'm going to remember this day for the rest of my life. And I thought, you know what, you are. You totally are. I'm going to remember this day because I've never chased snapping turtles around a building. But it was awesome. So that kind of student-led like exploration, the conversations going on with the teachers in the classrooms and all the things they taught me about turtles was really cool. So, I mean, that was the second day of school, so that's really hard to beat. But aside from that, it's been wonderful. It is just, they're happy, the staff is happy, everyone is really excited. We're having a great year so far. Any
Awesome.
questions for me?
Any questions for Ms. Brown?
I love the tradition. I think it's great, you know, getting students involved in the morning. It was great to hear. There's a rotation of that, you know. Are you sticking just to 3rd grade with that, or?
Right now, we're just sticking with 3rd grade.
Okay.
We have each teacher picked a day, and they're kind of cycling through. But I'm not opposed to expanding it. I think it's great, and they were really excited. We've talked about some other ways to get students involved, and maybe even reading the pledge at a school board meeting and doing that with a different grade. So we've got some ideas of how to really involve them.
Well, thank you for the report. That was great. I'm just curious, I mean, how has been your transition? Not the first couple of days of school, but more like, you know, you've been here for a month or 2 now. And how's that been going for you? And then what's been surprising to you so far?
So it's great to have students back because being a principal of a building with no one in it was very weird, especially like as you're first starting. I was like, I don't know how to find anything or do anything. So the transition's been good. Everyone's been very helpful and letting me know how things have gone, where we want to go in the future. Maybe we have new ideas. So I have like lists going in my office of where we need to go. I think the most surprising piece, this is a trick question, I wasn't prepared for that one, is just how involved everyone is. Coming from a district that didn't have a lot of parent involvement, it's a very different side for me, and everyone is genuinely just reaching out to see how they can help. And I think that really speaks to the community and one of the strengths in this area.
Thank you.
I appreciate you addressing the pickup. I know that's a nightmare over at Harold Martin.
I haven't slept.
But I appreciate you looking at it. It's really important. My follow-up question to that is there a safety concern of that pulling in there being too backed up onto that road, and where there's a concern that during that window?
As Patrice did a great job, we're evaluating, we changed the standard, right?
Yeah.
So the standard is the students and the staff.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was before the traffic was coming too close, or parents were walking down without notifying they were picking up students. Found a lot of gaps in the previous procedure. So changing the accountability piece of making sure the student is getting with the right person that they should be, making sure that cars aren't pulling out when kids are walking. So now we've run into an unintended consequence, right? So as she mentioned, the amount of numbers there are because of COVID switch. So that traffic piece is the next part that we're evaluating. We're still under, there's a lot of pickup and drop off to start school, and then the numbers kind of flush out a little bit on more bus riders. And on rainy days, there's less people walking to school. So we're still in that evaluation piece of trying to figure out what the right way to do it is, because we're not going to change protecting the students and staff and making sure that all that's in place. Now it's the next level of evaluating traffic, essentially.
Perfect. Thank you.
I will say one of the pieces is if we have families coming in and parking in the parking lot, that's causing issues in the whole flow of things because they're pulling in or backing up or they can't get out. We have several cars who park right along the edge of our parking lot and the buses can't get through. So then we have to kind of navigate that piece. So as much as we appreciate people walking in, if they're walking from their homes or walking from a different area and not parking in our parking lot, that's much easier for us to navigate. I will also say that this is not just a Harold Martin problem. This is an every elementary school across the area problem. I live near Beaver Meadow. If I don't leave my house by a certain time, I'm not getting out. And I know that, so.
And we did an evaluation of the high school traffic last year, remember? We changed it in the middle of January because we had gotten to that point. So it might be, as we evaluate the end of this week, there might be new maps going out, new traffic patterns, new rules in place about not being able to park and get out and pick up. Like if you're gonna be pickup, you have to be pickup, stay in the line. So I'd say, remember, there's been significant change in the pickup procedure. So we're retraining community, retraining the staff, so it takes time. We have to put it in perspective, it's day 5.
I guess I had 2 questions. One about buses. So I know oftentimes for the first week it's, I'll drive you to school and pick you up, and then after that you're going on the bus. If people would like to go on the bus and they haven't already figured that out, who do they need to reach out to? To you, to their teacher?
That is a great question. So I would reach out to Jean Eaton, our office manager, and she has been working with our transportation department on getting that set up.
Great. And then my second question is, I know that for the past 2 years, we've had free breakfast and lunch for everyone, which was wonderful. Now we don't have that. And so it's sort of getting back into, you need money in the My School Bucks, and we also need folks filling out the free lunch forms if they, are able to. How has that been going?
So we have seen, we probably have like 25%, I'm guessing right now, of our students getting hot lunch, just based on my observations when I'm in there. My numbers could be off there. And then charging through to the My School Bucks. We do our online form. It has to be in by Sundays. We had a little bit of a glitch. I know a couple people tried to get in this weekend and couldn't get in. It's definitely much more difficult than when it was free for everyone, that's for sure. And we've worked with a couple of families who have just asked us about the free and reduced lunch application and set them up on how to do that. And we offer that support to anyone. So if anyone is interested or needs help, they can call us. We'll walk them through it. We can sit with them as they do it. It's pretty simple when online. I always tell families, even if you don't think you're going to qualify, it doesn't hurt to try. And it benefits the school in a lot of ways. So that's always helpful.
You'll see a push from us. It's on our leadership agenda on the 13th. And then, so you'll see a push from the buildings, kind of letting people come back, the chaos of all the forms that are coming in. So you'll see a second round of, if you haven't filled out free and reduced, fill it out. And the same advice Patrice just gave. Even if you don't think, you'd be surprised, and then that helps everyone.
And is it a confidential process?
Yes.
Strictly
Extremely,
confidential.
yes.
Great.
Principals won't know, that those lists are highly protected.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thanks.
Now Ms. Lindoni knows all the secret questions, so.
I do, and Matt sent me a message from up there and said, lean into the microphone. All right, well, thank you for having me. I believe that the first week of Maple Street School was a success. I took a picture of the first 4 students walking in, and it was not staged. The smiles on their faces, I too put it on Facebook. I think really just illustrates the enthusiasm that students had, that staff had. You wouldn't have known it was 95 degrees on the first day of school. They all did activities and lessons to build class and school community. You see evidence of that throughout the school on bulletin boards and in common spaces. So it was just so nice to have everybody back. The first week of school, we ate in the cafeteria so we could teach expectations and procedures. After that, it's open depending on whether they eat outside or they come into the cafeteria. Just to speak to our experiences at Maple Street with some of those questions, I think it's about half and half students getting hot lunch versus bringing it. And again, it's me eyeballing it, but just from being in those duties, visualizing who gets up. So I think it's a pretty healthy number. The special education update I have for you is we welcome 2 new special educators to Maple Street. Holly DeRee is our new speech and language pathologist, and Nicole Stevenson is our new 6th grade case manager. Both come from surrounding districts and have quite a bit of knowledge, and we're very lucky to have both of them. We have also welcomed 4 new instructional assistants, which we're very excited about. We welcomed Albert Rittinger, Eliza Paquette, Sarah Sawitsky, and Ashley Nicholson, who isn't quite new, but she came back in an IA capacity. Albert has graciously accepted the AM crosswalk duty, so you will see him out there. He thanked me for that, and in that honor, he was very excited. He's also a former student, so it's nice that he's coming back to work for us again. A 5th IEA, Christine Demule, will be joining us on September 26th, so that only leaves 1 IA vacancy at Maple Street School. So we're doing really well with that. I just wanted to highlight safety. We conducted our first evacuation on August 30th. It went very smoothly. The students were incredibly respectful and silent. It was absolutely perfect. As many of you know, we're drafting the emergency operations plan. I'm going to be meeting with my safety team later this Thursday just to review everything. Chief Hennessy has visited. 2 of his officers were bringing something over to the SAU, so they also walked through today. They want to be a visible presence for students to see, which is fantastic. To highlight school culture and climate, one of the Maple Street goals is to build collective teacher efficacy. And as you remember, this is the collective belief of a school's faculty and staff to positively impact students, including their achievement. And a key component to that is positive school culture and climate, which is something that I've really tried to build on. There was great school climate when I came. Just like Patrice, we do the morning announcements every day. We do the Pledge of Allegiance. We celebrate birthdays. Today I had 2 students come up to my office and they read some of their writing. And I was so proud of them because that's really stepping out of their comfort zone. And we finished and I said to one of them, I said, "You did a fantastic job." And one of them looked at me and said, "I was so scared." I said, "But you were fantastic." And I want to use that as a venue to highlight student achievements such as their writing because it's so important. We have the 4 B's of Maple Street School: be respectful, responsible, safe, and a community. So beginning this week, 1 student from each class will be chosen to be the Maple Street School ambassador. So what that means is they have exemplified through their actions, through their behaviors, the 4 B's. The classroom teacher will write a short blurb, little paragraph about how they've done that. Our new school counselor, Ms. Hine, will come around with me. We will read them to celebrate it with their class. I took a picture frame, I sprayed it with green glitter. They're going to hold it around their face. We're going to take their picture and slowly populate the bulletin board outside the cafeteria, where everyone, I'm hoping, will be able to have their picture up there. And that's just another way to reiterate our values, our 4 Bs at Maple Street School. And they will also be read on the announcements the following week, so the kids get to hear that as well. Social emotional learning and behavioral supports. With the exception of new staff members, the majority of the staff at Maple Street School have all been trained in responsive classroom. There is dedicated time in the master schedule to morning meeting, to quiet time. You hear it in the proactive language that they use with students. Our new school counselor, Ms. Hine, will be teaching some counseling lessons in addition to Jordan Whitaker, weekly and wellness. We've also implemented varying levels of behavioral support. Each classroom has what we call a tab space, a take a break space. It's not punitive, but it's a space for students to go to take a moment to self-regulate. And those procedures were taught early last week in the beginning of the school year. We also have 3 levels of behavior support. Level 1 is managed by the classroom teacher. That could range from redirection to a student conference. Level 2 is managed by our Student Support Center, Mr. Najam. That might be providing time and space for re-regulation or teaching expectations. And then level 3 are the more serious behaviors that require my administrative support. And all of this is documented to determine a pattern, but to also target interventions, proactive interventions to assist students. We're also going to create a wraparound team consisting of the counselor, the school psychologist, the reading and math specialist, a case manager, school nurse, and myself to really brainstorm interventions to meet students' needs, whether it is academic, social, emotional, or just basic needs. So thank you. Any questions?
I'm going to steal Jim's question to you.
I already wrote down the answer.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
I know. Well, go ahead, I have a different one.
All right. So I'm going to steal Jim's question to you then.
So which one? The one, what was I surprised about?
Yes, the question was, what have your eyes with?
So my transition and what has surprised me. My transition, in my opinion, has been smooth. I've had staff say to me, it seems like you've always been here. And to me, that's the greatest compliment. I really pride myself on being extremely visible every day. That's where I find my joy with students, being out with teachers. I want to get into some classrooms and do a read aloud that I think exemplifies our core beliefs at Maple Street School, and I already reached out to 4th grade. I'm going to start my first one tomorrow. Because at my heart, I'm still an educator, I'm still a teacher, and I really enjoy that. What has surprised me is my school has such a level of such competent staff, and I'm sure it's like that throughout this district, but I can only speak to Maple Street School. Everyone there has been so welcoming, and the immense amount of knowledge they have is really staggering, and I am so fortunate. Every day when I pull into that parking lot, I know I'm exactly where I need to be.
So I guess now that you're settled in, after the fantastic transition that you had, what do you see as like your biggest challenge that you see as a building principal over the next couple of months?
To be honest with you, the master schedule is tricky. When you share a unified arts person among 2 schools, your master schedule is somewhat built off of that, and there's some non-negotiables there. So would I have reorganized content time a little differently? I would have, but I'm restricted from that perspective. So really for me, it's scheduling. We mapped everything out. The time is still there. Teachers are still participating in their PLCs, but some of them don't have common planning time every single day, which I think is very important.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's an obvious follow-up to that. What would be the solution to that?
I've lived this in my other district, and the solution is that no one wants to hear is we need full-time unified arts people in schools. And I know it's just not feasible here, and I understand that, but that really allows flexibility for when you go to the drawing table of creating your master schedule, you map out content first and you prioritize that and then build unified arts around it. But I understand the financial constraint as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My final thing is, I really appreciate what you have to say tonight, involving our students and really being around them, their presence, and get involved with many other things like with Pledge of Allegiance and just other things. It was a very different feeling this year for a lot of our students at Maple Street, and a lot of them just felt very motivated, happy, very excited to go back the next day, even after being in 95-degree weather. And that has to start with the new leadership over at both locations, all three buildings. And I just wanted to say it was a great feeling to hear, to ask multiple students how they felt, and to hear that they were excited and that they were able to go home and share more new things than they have done in the past. Was great to hear, because we asked them how their day is, and to hear that there's a new vibe going on was really great to hear. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
They asked all the questions. I've got nothing.
All set?
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, so we're gonna do a little bit different here. Mr. Kelly is zooming in for reasons he can share. I can't, it'd be against the law, so it's up to him if he would like to share that. But I'm trying to figure out a way to do this. Hang on, Chris, because we need a mic. Why don't I go this way? Okay. I'm gonna go to Michelle's mic, and then he can also see the board. Wait, I don't know. Can I get Jim in there? I got him.
You don't need me.
All right.
Yes, I can see the board. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to join virtually. I was just texting with Rebecca. I forgot how much I enjoyed this, with a little bit of sarcasm there. Yeah, no, I'm out because I had 2 discs replaced in my neck right at the start of school, which was not great timing. So on the onset, I just want to thank Jake for all the work he's done during the opening of school. It was not ideal. Originally, they wanted me to do it on the 29th because it was that bad, and I said, nope, can't do that. New assistant principal, new school year, everyone's coming back as much as normal than we've seen in the past, so I had to be there for the first 2 days. And so I'm looking forward to coming back, hopefully on Friday, as long as I can get the clearance to drive from my doctor at Concord Ortho. So looking forward to just getting back in the swing of things coming this Friday. It's just been really nice to be back, even though I haven't really been back, but for the first 2 days leading up to the start of school, it's been wonderful to see the students back out on the athletic fields, to see them in the classrooms, to hear music to start to emulate from the auditorium and the music robes, and just to see our students and staff back in the buildings and the hallways and the classrooms. It feels like we're alive again, if that makes sense. It's just been really nice to be back. We had a busy summer planning and preparing for the opening of school, and it started with some middle school planning, if you remember, through the support of the work that Rebecca had done, getting our middle school teams to participate in responsive classroom training in Concord this summer. That was an extremely informative and energizing training for, I think, all of us. We had everybody there, except for 1 or 2 faculty that could not attend. So it was really a full middle school experience for us. And so we're looking forward to building upon what the elementary schools do with responsive classroom and putting that into play at the middle school to continue to support, our students' social and emotional well-being, and helping them to continue to build the skills to be engaged and productive learners, and in a way that supports our core values and beliefs. There are many things that came out of that training outside of learning new or coming out with new ideas for different brain breaks to support school board policy. But we also learned many different interactive learning activities, which help to support the students' academic skills and how they share and learn information in multiple ways. So not just sit, get, and produce, but working together collaboratively as groups, small groups in the classroom, in different spots in the classroom. And I've already, in those first 2 days, walking the hallways and walking the classrooms, seeing the teachers setting up their classrooms to really support that has been been a lot of fun to see. And I'll look forward to seeing it further implemented when I return to school next week. Another thing that came out of that training was that as a middle school, we adopted 5 learning competencies. And these are competencies that are really designed to support quality learning, high quality learning. And these 5 competencies, when you walk the building or go into the classroom, you'll see them. The first one talks about listening and with respect for understanding. I think it's something we really need to work on, not just both in the middle school, but also in the high school. Listening with respect, agreeing to disagree, but how do we do that in a way that's respectful? Speaking clearly, concisely, and confidently, and building those skills. I think that ties in nicely to a lot of what we do at the high school English level when it comes to things like our forensics tournament, poetry out loud, and other speaking engagements that our students are involved with as they grow up into the high school. Asking purposeful questions and answering them in a way that is appropriate and succinct, and then using sound reasons and evidence to make an argument. And the final one was agree to disagree respectfully and advance the exchange of ideas. So we're going to be looking to implementing those and making those more of what we do every single day, part of our vernacular, and helping those students understand those. Again, to help them not just academically, but socially and emotionally as well. As we got into the opening of school, as some of you know, we've continued. It was my 18th year doing Salute to 7th grade. That really hit me when I first said it. It's been hard. Hard to believe I've been in the district for 18 years. But it was, I think we only had like 2 students who did not attend. So it was a great attendance. It went really smoothly. And they had the opportunity to walk the building, participate in a few activities with some of our teachers, with Jake and I. Learn their schedule and learn where their lockers were. I think it's just a wonderful way to help them become a little bit more acclimated to the building, because it's a big transition for them. It's their last transition, as you know, into a new building in their 12 years in our district. The staff is back to work. As you know, the students are happy, and as I said, the building is really back to life. As I speak about staff, and I don't know if Mike has alluded to this in previous meetings, I am, as a principal of a middle high school, I am so lucky to say that I am fully staffed. Because that is not the case, as you know, across New Hampshire, let alone at a national level. And the teachers that we were able to hire are just phenomenal. I've had the chance to just see them interact with students. From a special ed perspective, I'm just really looking forward to seeing our new special education teachers get to work and see the results of their hard work, and including our new math teacher, Ms. Kovar, and new social studies teacher, Ms. Monat. They're just bringing a lot of energy to the building. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them. We're very, very lucky to not have a classroom empty or wanting a teacher. So we're very fortunate. I think that speaks to just everything that the Hopkinton School District has to offer. I also want to take a moment to thank the Hopkinton Public Schools Foundation. As you have a chance to walk out of the auditorium this evening, if you have a chance to look into the library, you're going to see the new bookshelves that they helped to purchase. They're beautiful. It really helps to bring that space alive. They're mobile too, so it becomes a flexible space for us to use. And talked with John Miner earlier, well, actually later this summer, about making sure we get that greenhouse up and running this fall too. So we'll be working on putting those up. Just 2 things that we couldn't do without the support of the foundation. As we get into the school year, there are some areas of focus that we're going to want to continue to work on. One of the things we started working on towards the end of the last school year was the development and implementation of a 20 credit graduation option for students. So with the help of the administrative council, all of our department chairs, Jake and Director of School Counseling and Jeff Daly, we worked together to put together a document that we have now forwarded off to Rebecca. She'll, I'm sure, has some edits or some work to do on that, but we're looking forward to implementing that as we get into the school year. Also, Also, an area of focus is our continued professional development opportunities for all of our staff that will help to provide an additional means of engagement, action, and expression for our students. And that really is linked and embedded in our UDL work that we've been doing. So we now have 2 cohorts at the middle high school of teachers, so about 15 teachers that are participating in UDL work and professional development. And so I'm looking forward to continuing that work and moving that forward. Both cohorts will continue to participate in professional development at the end of this month in Concord. And in October, our representative from CAST, who oversees the work that we do, will be coming in to offer some PD for the entire faculty. And I've been working with Rebecca on that a little bit today on what that day may look like. So still some more to come on that, but we're moving that ship forward. And the last area of focus for me is our continued analysis and review of our current grading practices. As a faculty, we've been talking a lot about competency-based assessment and grading and education. Last year, we had a reporting committee that started doing some work on this. We'll continue to do some work. We're going to participate in some competency-based professional development with Brian Stack, who is the executive director of the New Hampshire Learning Initiative. So we're continuing to support our building goals there, district goals, and just making sure that we continue to utilize best practices as we continue to take a look at how do we best offer feedback to students and not just worried about the grade, but understanding why we're learning it, how we're able to apply it to different genres, not just in one core academic area. So we'll continue to look at how we develop our school-specific plans to implement that, but really looking forward to that work. We've got a great group of teachers working on that work as well. So those are my 3 areas of focus or goals, if you will, for the year. They're pretty deep. It's not a 1 year, these aren't 1 year goals. These are goals that will probably span a couple years for us, but really looking forward to seeing that work through. I don't know if it was spoke about earlier tonight. It was kind of hard to hear on my phone, but the parking at the high school, as you know, this year we have assigned spots. Jake jumped right into that at the beginning of the year, making sure students were parking in the right spots as I was greeting kids off the bus. And that's been a lot of fun to watch those kids come in and just park and know exactly where they have to go. But it also gives us accountability of where people are parking. So that's been nice for us. And it looks more like a parking lot, not like the Derby at the Hopkinton State Fair. So that's been a lot of fun. I heard the other principals talk about school safety a little bit. Our monthly drills will start next week. I believe we have a fire drill scheduled for Monday. Jake put together a calendar that we've sent out to the entire faculty so they know exactly when we're going to be doing our drills. And then later in the month, I believe we have a lockdown scheduled as well. So not that I'm looking forward to those, but I do look forward to those in the sense of just knowing that we get those in place and we're ready to go in the event of. And last, just some really exciting things that we're looking forward to and continuing to plan. The 7th grade cardigan trip is well underway, and as far as that is concerned and being put back together. That's going to run the week of September the 25th. And then Sarah Broody is looking to, in October, bring our students back to Kimball Pond and do the field trip that she's done there in the past. That was a lot of fun. Prior to, I think last fall, we were able to go out there on a great day and just see the kids doing a lot of different work out there. Excited to say that we're heading back to Washington, D.C. in November. We're actually doing 2 trips this year. So one in November, and then we get back on track in the spring. So Kate Cintros is working to put that together. I may be attending the one over Veterans Day weekend in November, so looking forward to that. Our Back in the Saddle program is still running. You heard me talk about that in the spring. That ran over the summer, and now it's running into the fall. So Beth Stern brought that to the building. It's been highly successful. They want to continue to work with us on how we support students. I had the opportunity to go out there this summer during ESY and see our students participating in that program, and just to see the smile on their faces and see the confidence that they had in riding the horses and then being able to interact with their peers outside the classroom was just worth $1,000. It was just wonderful to see. Then I'm looking forward to hosting open house. I don't think we've hosted an open house now for 2 years, 3 years. So that's going to happen on Wednesday, September the 21st. Excuse me, from 6 to 8. So I think that's probably the most I've talked since my surgery. So and my voice is telling me so. But I'm available to answer any questions.
Questions? Yeah.
I know Bits is on the market, that entire facility, or I'm fairly certain. Do we know what the transition plan is, if it sells?
Short answer?
I couldn't hear the question.
Oh, sorry.
So the short answer is no.
Yeah.
We'll gather more. That is
Yeah.
news to me. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm fairly certain that the Bits facility, like that entire parcel, is on the market, like is being sold. At
What
which
facility?
point?
I'm sorry.
What?
What facility?
Oh,
the bits
so
back at the
I think I
side.
can offer some insight to that.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
So when we were talking to Jalen over the summer, I don't know how many hundreds of acres of land there are out there, but they bought enough land to still own the BITS program, enough land to still have those nurses that they have there. That's what I heard.
So it sounds like the program's still going to operate even if they sell off other pieces of the land.
Correct.
Okay,
We'll get more information and let you guys know.
okay.
But again, I heard that secondhand, so that's just what I know.
And just to echo what you said earlier about the foundation, this was another foundation-funded program
Yeah.
to get off running.
Correct.
And then
Yeah.
it'll come up in the budget discussion this year,
Yeah.
but it's something we want to continue to fully support.
Yeah, cool.
Any more questions? No? Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us. And for-
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to getting back by Friday.
Oh, well,
Well,
if that works.
Just healing. All
Yeah. Heal the neck first.
right, we'll see you later.
All right, thanks. Bye.
And he's gone. No more questions.
Well, Dulcie's here and he's done. Okay. So,
They're connected, really.
anything else before I kick the principals out? I just want to say one more thing. Everyone's kind of got their shining star here, and I think Jake deserves it as well. I think Carrie said it best when I solicit feedback on how's it going from people. When you hear it feels like the baton was just picked up and started to move, that's the greatest compliment you can do. Be able to pick up and continue to run the marathon we run every day. So all three of them have transitioned outstandingly into what they have. I think one of the best parts is all the new ideas they're bringing and the reevaluation and the new lenses that they're talking about. That's one of the reasons why the three of them are the lead on the new EOPs, and I'll speak about that later, but it's because they're bringing different lenses that haven't been here, so new ideas, new thoughts. So you'll hear more about that as we move along. But to Jake, to hear from the student body, standing in the rain, man, that's something I probably would have never done. So great job. But no, it's just a compliment to all three of them. So nothing else. I'm going to say you guys should go home.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Awesome.
Still beautiful.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to the organizational chart. This is something we talked about in, believe it or not, May and June, as our new people were coming on and new directors. So in the board folder, you will see the organizational chart, named organizational chart. And in there, you'll see that it goes, this is just a draft. So once everyone has an eye on it, we'll post it to the website so everyone can get a peek at the flow chart. I guess the one thing I would like to point out to you in there is you'll see that under Michelle, you have food service and you have human resources and then you have the business office. So Michelle, remember that was one of the priorities of these hires was Michelle becoming able to focus more on those areas. You'll notice the dotted line between Michelle and Jim because through the discussions, there's a lot of interconnections between them. So more often than not, they might be working together without me. I still supervise Jim, I still evaluate Jim, but with Michelle and Jim, there's a lot of of work that they'll be doing together. So I just wanted to show that line because I think that's why it started, but there's a lot more connection between those offices than there are between any other office. As you get down below, you'll see under Matt, we're now fully staffed, so you have the network, and then you have the technical support, which has been great. I know that's been going off very well. Then you have the principals, Jake, teachers, so forth and so on. So I know we just wanted to kind of clear up some of who's going where and what's going on. So any questions on the org chart?
I have a question.
Sure.
So the food service director, why is that under the business administrator and not directly under the superintendent? Why?
So you want to speak to that? So Tracy has, when we were talking about who ties and who works with the most, she talks to Michelle 98% of the time, and the necessity of me comes in on 2%. So the way to get work completed the most efficiently and with the greatest oversight, that is Michelle to Tracy.
So most of those conversations are finance.
Absolutely.
Is this considered like a hierarchy for the district?
Oh, like the vertical?
Like how, it's not importance, but kind of like, so you're the top, right, superintendent, and then it goes down to curriculum director, business administrator.
No, this is just how.
I was just trying to.
Yeah, no, it's how it fit on the document.
All right.
We could have went this
Okay,
way,
landscape
it could have went this
strategy.
way and all the way down, but this was,
Okay, because I was just surprised the director wasn't like up at the top next to Michelle.
yeah.
Because like when you look at those three, then they go under that.
Yep, it would go down and across and
Okay,
down and
all right,
down,
so-
but we need to fit it onto a document, a single page.
Okay.
Which needs to go landscape, yeah.
Okay, all right, that was on my.
Where do the nurses fit?
Nurses are under each principal, so that, we can change that to.
Contract.
Say that again?
They're in the teacher's contract.
Yeah, we could, they are,
That's true, and school psych would also then be in they're in the teacher's contract as
Correct.
well, right? Okay.
we could change it to HEA to clarify it, PES. Might be,
That would
Might clarify
only
some.
clarify it though, that I would actually keep it as teachers and instructional assistants. I think that this is more accessible than writing AGA and HES.
I think it allows the community to have a
Yep.
better.
Absolutely. Great. Any other questions?
So if you are okay with that, not that it needs approval, just consent nod, and we'll put that just out for the public. And move forward.
My only suggestion, if you're gonna put it out on the website for public, is if you can put the names, maybe of the people in the higher end positions, like not all the teachers, obviously, because that probably wouldn't fit, but, maybe the principals and sort of your leadership team.
Sure. We can do that.
Is there any way we can move the director up so it's 3, so it's not like it's down?
Well, they've got
Yeah, but there's
several directors.
several. There's
so
director
Oh,
of
yeah.
technology,
Oh, that's
that's
true.
why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
If you could maybe put an asterisk somewhere and say this is not hierarchical.
For our visual learners, I understand. All right, sounds good.
Thank you for doing that.
All right, moving on to enrollment. Now, enrollment's not officially locked in until October 10th. October 10th sounds about
October
right?
1st.
First? Why did I make up 10? In the board packet as well is the report we pulled as of this morning. Of note is that kindergarten number. I don't know if you remember when I brought out NESDEC initially, they put us in the 43 range, and I was like, that doesn't feel right because of post-COVID. So we're at 64 as of now, and I could anticipate that maybe growing a little bit more. It seems to be leveling off with our registrations, but as you can see, that puts the district at 903 as of today.
They had anticipated that grade 1 when they were back in kindergarten was supposed to be like 80 or something. Do you guys remember that? With time.
So when does this lock in? Like,
October 1st. That's when the state, that's when it's due to the state to submit.
and for our budget, what number did we use?
I don't
We did.
recall.
I know when
It was right around that number. It wasn't off by much.
okay,
Did we,
Maybe 910, 915.
okay.
it was the planned pre-K number, or is that different or anything delta from the tuition changes from this year? Or was that tracking right about where we should be?
That's pretty standard for this time of the year.
Okay.
That allows opportunity if necessary for non-identified students that
Yeah.
might become identified.
Yeah.
And then we will flush out opportunity for availability as we go along.
Great.
Again, this is raw numbers as of today. Any questions?
I think the only thing I would add to Lauren's reference to budget is that we've talked a lot about 4 teachers across grade levels for consistency of staffing as kids roll through. So when you're looking at grade 1, theoretically, could you push that down to 3? But I think that we've talked as a board that that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for
It's continuity for sure, but it's also our community in Hopkinton, right? So when you talk about every year something coming up because a number of move-ins or move-outs, like anything could fluctuate that number. That means that grade 1 class will continually have, right? We can go down all those avenues, but yeah, the consistency piece of pre-K through 6 was a goal that we started last year.
My last question was about the high school. So I know that for COVID, there were some kids who left to go to private schools. There's also a fluctuating number of kids who go to like boarding school every year. Has that changed in the last year? Are we seeing more kids out or in? Or
We saw, I'm going to look to you, I'm going to say that I think about, no, I was talking to Jake earlier, should have made him stay. I want to say it was about 11 came back this year.
Okay.
So the number of comeback was more than the number of going out
Okay.
for this year for sure.
I think the same with homeschool too, right?
Yeah, we had a couple come back from homeschool.
Quite a few homeschoolers.
And I've only had 2 come in, where last year I had multiple. This
Okay.
year I've only had 2 new requests.
And
do
I
we-
think tuitioning in, I think we have a greater number than we've had in a long time too.
Okay. And do we track for the kids who are going out to boarding school? Do we track where they're going and why? Or like private school enrollment in general, or?
I asked that question a long time ago.
Yeah.
They don't track.
We interview why.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
know why before they leave, yeah.
Okay.
Before it was not the case. That's great.
Tracking's the wrong word to use.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to provide the information on why they're leaving, sure, we ask.
Yep.
But we don't, there's no document out there that says
Said
Mike
bop,
Flynn.
bop, bop.
yeah.
Totally. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Questions on enrollment? And that'll be, we'll report out again once it's official in October. Okay, last meeting, we had brought up bidding policy. Who knows the letters off by heart?
DJE.
DJE. And we had mentioned that due to the time that we are in regards to finding vendors, having people want to put out bids because of how much work it may take, we were looking, Michelle and I, and now Jim Rizicki, were looking for a movement on the number to allow us an opportunity to lock in work quicker than the time frame it would take to drop a bid, post a bid, open the bid, close the bid, not have the work. So Andrea and I, well, Andrea did some work this weekend, and then we chatted on possibility. I know there was some concern coming out of the board on clarification on why we were asking for the adjustment. And after doing some research, we knew we would come here for tonight for discussion, but the number of the 100 that we initially, I think it put the brakes on everyone quickly last meeting. And then doing some research on what surrounding districts. Michelle had a great question this morning. I don't know if they've updated theirs or not. Surrounding was 35, 25.
Yeah.
But one of the lines that we found, and I laughed because I was a part of it in Hampstead and totally forgot about it, was the caveat of the necessity around maybe an emergency, something, let's just say a boiler went out yesterday and we needed to move to go out quickly. Could contact the chair or vice chair for approval, just to get us a head start ahead of the board. I'd like to reiterate that any significant work would always be brought before the board in any form or fashion. This allows us to just get a head start on trying to solicit work. Still be getting multiple quotes from multiple people, allowing everyone the opportunity to do the work. But the number of 10,000 seems to be, people just aren't engaged in it in the world nowadays. I know Andrea sent it out for review.
I did.
so go
I
ahead.
just dropped it to you guys. I had sent it to Jim already. I did put it into dropped it into board docs, and I highlighted, yep, the yellow highlights, the only language changes was increasing the 15,000 to 25,000. And then you can see at the bottom, in the event of an emergency, superintendent or designee may waive the bidding requirement with notification and approval of the school board chair or the vice chair. In the absence of the chair, the full board shall be notified by the superintendent or designee as soon as possible. But it's up for discussion because we haven't had a policy meeting yet.
And also, initially, we don't have any, I'm just trying to remember my conversation with Jim today. If this does not move forward tonight, we're fine. You can digest it, you can review it. We are having a policy meeting on Thursday. So plenty of time to come back on the 20th. We can waive reads if we want to at that point. So I just don't want anyone to feel pressured to move on it. After talking to Jim and Michelle, we're in a good spot for any work that we're coming up. So we're good on that.
Great.
Michelle, how many bids right now are you currently looking for?
None at this point.
Okay. And then, I think one thing that's important is like if there is a wave in this, Mike, I know that you're looking at reviewing it, you're not going with, the highest bid. You're going through a search and making sure it's the right bid. Just because you got one bid and they can't do the job, doesn't mean you're going to accept it. You're going through these bids and making sure they can do the job.
Yeah, and to be really honest, having Jim, he's already told us about how he evaluates quotes or bids, and industry standards is the word he continues to use. He's really in on that. So he's able to see a bid that is funky, right? So way overbid, way over quoted. And then in that circle of director of facilities, kind of like Michelle and BAs or myself, they're able to talk it out. So Jim's really going to be the eye on that along with Michelle. There goes that dotted line, right? So they're the ones that have had the experience on bidding and or quotes.
Okay.
I'm just curious, this is maybe a Michelle question, but in the current language, we use the word when feasible, so we say pretty much if it's, I don't know what the limit is, $10,000 right now or more, shall be based when feasible. How do you interpret that when feasible on the competitive bids?
Can you repeat what?
Sure. So the policy right now, I'll just read it, says all contracts for and purchases of supplies, materials, equipment, and contractual services in the amount of,
It's 15,000.
it's 15,000 right now,
Yeah.
or more shall be based, comma, when feasible, on at least 3 competitive bids. So I guess my question is, how do you interpret the when feasible clause in that sentence?
Because of depending upon the item or items, it might not have 3 individuals.
Single source.
So you would move forward with less than 3 bids if you couldn't get 3 without coming to the board?
I believe we've always talked to the board and brought it forward saying to get approval with a single source.
Single source would be, they're the only company that offers that product. There's going to be no one else. When we did that, no, what was the one that we did last year?
We've done a bunch of them.
Renewable energy, essentially. Remember the heat pumps? Like that would be a single source that there might not be a competitive bid. As Michelle said, everything else, that would seem to be the only saying, hey, this is the only company that's doing the work. I was going to look at Matt for a piece of technology because they might be the only ones. That might be something we're approaching you on. Yeah.
Like Siemens is a good example for past. For instance, we have their system. There's no way to have anybody else maintain their system other than them. So we can't go out to bid for competitiveness because of the fact that we would have to rewire all the buildings, which we've talked about before in the CIP committee.
Yeah.
You'd be asking us to waive this just for this year, or we look at this moving forward?
No, we are looking to change the number.
Okay.
And when I say for the 22-23 school year, when I think it out loud is, I don't know if it's necessary as a forever thing. I really think it's a market adjustment thing when we're talking about what's going to be coming our way or what we need to come our way. I think that's the challenge. We're just trying to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
That's all.
I mean, has there been other school districts that have exceeded this amount of 25? Is there anything else out there
So
to
the
compare us to?
Concord School District is at 35.
Okay.
And that's, other than that, it is, hold on, I wrote them all down. Oh, look at
I
that.
mean, the number I had was 30.
Kearsarge is at 10, Hampstead is at 10 for a single item, 20 for multiple, Bow is at 5, Bedford's at 25.
So 25 or 30.
And I actually don't even know if $10,000 really makes a difference. Frankly, if it's,
Well, the one we pulled, Pelham was I think Pelham was 100. That's where we came
oh
from.
wow.
Yeah. And also just remember, we brought this up as in the August meeting because it's something that we anticipated. Normal process would be this would be kicked and punched at policy level, then we come here. I just don't want anyone to think that we're trying to jump the process. I just think we needed to get it on this table quicker than. Sorry, Jim. I keep.
No, you're doing fine. No, I mean, generally, I think that 15, even 20 seems very high to do a bid process. I mean, it seems low dollar amount to be doing a bid process that you have to jump through hoops on, and then you're asking all your vendors to jump through hoops on. So this is a different approach that we could talk about in policy if that's what the board wants. But I could see sort of having maybe 3 tiers. So you have like $25,000 or less. It's like reasonable judgment. So you, Meg, being the ultimate decision maker, in your reasonable judgment, it's like a good thing to go forward, and you've done your whatever you feel is competitive. Like that feels fine to me. I don't think you're gonna go off and spend $25,000 on crazy things. And then you have a second tier, which is like 25 to 75,000 or something. These are just numbers I'm making up. That you would do some sort of quote documentation, that you've gone out to get quotes, that you feel like you have 3 reputable quotes. And that's fine. Anything over 75, then you would do like a more formal bid process. But anyway, it just feels like that unshackles you a bit to do a bit more, getting vendors on their contract quicker rather than waiting for a bid process on something that, in today's inflationary world really isn't that high of a dollar amount that you're just gonna have trouble getting bidders in. So anyway, I don't know those are the right numbers, but I could see something like that where we're freeing you guys up a little bit more to make decisions to move forward quickly, but still enough checks and balances that we're not just handing over the keys.
And it's important that the town has approved a budget. And it's not like you're exceeding that budget with this bidding process. That you guys can use what the town approved in order to run our district. So, I think a tier system like that's very interesting to discuss. I know through vendors myself through work that if you guys are to wait weeks for us to meet in order to get something done, then we're losing out on the opportunity to get something done. It's your job to maintain the school and so forth. So I think a tier process that's written clearly by the policy committee, I definitely would entertain that. But I just want to make it clear that there's a budget that's been approved in town for us.
Right, but also at the same time, it's the board's duty to have fiduciary governance over the expenditure of what those items are.
Agreed.
So like, it's not like Mike and team have carte blanche, $22 million to go out there and spend on
that's
pencils.
basically what the two
legal
references are.
So I feel okay with the 25K. I think that we could move to that. I think that it's worth sort of making this move, seeing how it feels like, hopefully, from an economic perspective with interest rate adjustments, hopefully maybe numbers will come back down in the market. But if in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, then I think that would be a great thing to do, especially because I think we'll be looking towards more work with an energy management plan and other things that we need to tackle. And I think that's a great thing to consider, but I think I'm totally okay with approving this now.
Why don't we do this, since we are meeting as a policy committee on Thursday? I'm sorry,
One
did you want
comment.
to jump
I
in?
saw
I'm
him.
sorry.
Well, I guess just to review, the problem we're solving is people don't want to bid. Because we got enough work, so we're not going to bid, so we got to go out and solicit work, bring in contracts, and I get that. My initial question was $25,000, but those all seem very much like arbitrary numbers when you're talking about maintenance and repair of the buildings that we have. So $25,000 would be ridiculously low for some of the things we need to do. I really like Jim's idea that we sort of tier this, and maybe Jim Brzezicki could give us some feedback. Like, again, my question is why 25,000? Like, if a handler goes, $25,000 isn't going to cover it. So, and we may not have time to go through that bid process. So I like the range piece as a way of sort of like giving some flags for.
But it can also be waived. Like if something goes, like per Andrea's discretion or yours in her absence, like if the boiler goes, then we can move around the process, which I think is fine, and then it's just notifying the board, which I think that without that clause, it's a,
I just think 25,000 is too high. In this market for work, I mean, between what you're gonna pay for materials and then labor, I think $25,000 for,
I think-
that's a low
I
number.
think we should go to policy. I think that's what you were gonna say.
That's what, yeah, I was gonna suggest that since we have a meeting in the books already,
Yep.
for Thursday, why don't we take a deeper dive and maybe we can even see if we can get Jim
Yep,
to
Jim.
stop by. Because I do think that this is a balance between trying to, Jim's words, unshackle you guys a little bit, but also being very mindful of the board's fiduciary duties, to really make sure that the money is being spent appropriately. So, that's the whole point of this policy. Great. We'll talk about this again then on the 20th.
It'll be on the 20th, under policy, because we'll have policy there.
Great.
All right. Moving on to the student handbooks. I don't know if you remember last year, I had mentioned that they had not previously been brought to the board for review and approval. They have been in there, they've been updated by all three people that were here tonight, Jake, Carrie, and Patrice. We're also gonna, I'll leave that, we'll probably bring that to policy as well to review. We've seen newer ones around the state in regards to review versus approval, to bring some discussion. One that you won't see in there is faculty handbook. Becca and I are still working on some significant changes on that, and that's gonna go out to legal to confirm prior to bringing it that way. So, not that it's disrupting the work in any form or fashion, but we wanna make sure we have everything right before having adults sign off on it.
if we have feedback, like for Harold Martin and Maple Street, they had the wrong time and date for the PTA meetings. Should that go to the principals or should that go to you?
I'm gonna say, as a board member, you can email the principal directly.
Okay. Sweet.
The times change.
It used to be 5 p.m. on Wednesdays, and I think now it's the Thursdays at 5:30, according to the PTA website, which I checked.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. I routinely forget when.
Mike, can you talk a little bit about the acknowledgement piece and what that means? You know, a student has a disciplinary issue and they say, well, I never read that, or I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
How does
one of the
that-
requirements for all students and families is to acknowledge that they've read it. So it's a review with the parents on each building's, maybe it's progressive discipline at the middle high school, maybe it's intervention at the elementary schools. So it is a piece for the administrative side that says that you've acknowledged it and you have, and we document it. And if you haven't, we remind you, all of that stuff. It's a partnership, right? So what's going on here, it's not just discipline. I also want to point out that it's academics and reporting and all of that. So it's the way that we are able to send standards or expectations, and parents can take a look.
So, one of the athletic agreement, when was that approved from this board? Was that ever?
It's not, there's an athletic agreement is not a handbook.
So it's, because the athlete has to sign on with my school, so they read the policy, the agreement on it. So
That
would
comes
not-
out of the athletic department, because that,
Okay.
not everyone's a student athlete. So those,
But it does have a little bit to do with grades wise and all that stuff, you know, and other things.
that's all athletic.
Okay.
That's all
It's
athletic.
actually co-curricular,
Co-curriculum, thank you.
so it's more than just athletics.
Yeah. So any other questions on the student part?
No, I think my only question was if I've had, now I do have someone at the middle high school, and so I've had some questions about how one could go about making change for anything that's in the student handbook?
Yep.
And who should they turn to
Yeah, so
besides their mother? Redirecting them.
we're going to redirect them. It's going to be Mr. Kelly and Mr. Morrow. So
Great. Great.
please set up a meeting for change.
Perfect.
And they can work through that process. They're not the first and they won't be the last.
Nope, sure won't be. Excellent, thank you. No, these look good. I think we could probably continue to work to make these a little bit more accessible in some ways.
What do you mean by accessible?
So I personally find these, they can be difficult to navigate. If you don't know to look for more, you might miss certain things.
It's possible that someone at this table named Dulcie, for example, didn't see the tabs at the top of the middle high school handbook, and I thought that you had to like sign something to get in there last night. Like they were totally not visible to me from a UI perspective.
We've talked about
Just as an example.
Somebody else at this table only remembers the paper copy, so it's really accessible.
It's actually a conversation Beck and I have had about several things that we have and that have produced. So ADA compliant, all of that. So shifting towards a PDF version. So it's in the works.
Great. And I appreciate these being brought forward. I don't have any other changes. Anything
So I
else?
would look for a motion to approve the student handbooks as presented for the 22-23 school year.
Can I ask one more clarifying question?
Yeah.
Can we make updates afterwards? Because I want to make sure that the policy for the policy around concussion and head injury is updated. Because we updated that last year, and at least in HMS it has the 2013 policy in there.
Yeah, I expected it. I can see that too.
Which one?
It's our concussion and head injury. It's still from.
Which I only
Oh,
remember
'cause we
because we were in
updated it
policy
last
last
year.
year. Yeah.
So you can make a motion to approve with the edits as
Okay.
necessary.
Great.
It's a living document, honestly.
Yeah, as long as we can. Yeah, that's
It's not
okay.
like I slammed my hand, but I didn't.
Yeah, Norm, the policy part that you were thinking of is we currently have a policy that says that all the handbooks need to be brought to the board every year for us to read and approve. And just looking at if we would like these to remain living documents, do they need approval every single time we update them? So that was just the policy component.
Got it. Thank
Does
you
that
very
make sense?
much.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
All right. Are there any other? I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the handbooks with the edits to the concussion and head injury section and any other edits and PTA, time and day of the week.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? No? All right, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Strategic plan update, I guess that should be reframed as strategic plan. I just know through the retreat, through the opening of school, the work we're doing at the SAU office through the superintendent's leadership team, that document has already been very powerful for us. It's drafted a clear lane of goals and expectations over the next 5 years. And it has allowed us to really narrow down targets as we move through the strategic plan, right? It's not gonna all be accomplished at once, but I know as you guys discuss your goals coming up, or as we talk about my goals, or building level goals, as you heard from them tonight, they're already implementing and weaving some of the language into their goals. So I just wanted to, this is the last time you'll hear from me in regards to strategic plan, but it's a great thing that this board has done and supported, and that it really allows us, as we get into the budgeting season here, you're going to hear us speak to the strategic plan several times. So as the community, as we move along through this process this year and in the school year, and just understand that everything now is directing somewhere, right? Where before it was, why are we doing that? Where did this come from? Why is this an issue now? Why wasn't it discussed? So this really allows us a roadmap and has already become a pretty powerful document. So that is the last update from strategic plan, hopefully. And now on to board goals, which is
Excellent.
you.
So you guys have access to our proposed board goals. So just so the community knows as well, during our board retreat on the 16th, basically we had 2 items on that retreat. The first was to eat tacos, which we did successfully. And the second was to draft our 2022-2023 board goals. So we did these, we really talked through them for a few hours. We really wanted to make sure that these board goals remain at the board level, which is, it's gonna be a high level goal. We are not going to be the ones out there physically doing anything. That's not our lane. If they are dealing with the budget or dealing with policies is really what we're looking at. So I just wanted to go through the goals that we concocted on that day and to talk about them, make sure that they still fit and work, see if we want to make any changes before moving forward with those. So the first one was under curriculum and assessment. The goal we came up with was the school board will adopt the affirmative implementation of the multiple pathways to graduation by December break of 2022. So I know that we put this out there, I think, because we want to see the Hopkinton 20 and the Hopkinton 24 implemented within this year and completed. But I'm wondering if we want to better define what that means, what that looks like.
Yes.
Perhaps that's a plan that has come to the board that we approve, that includes so right now, there's a policy that has our graduation requirements, and that's the Hopkinton 24 basically. So the way that this, in my opinion, the way that this would be completed would be that that policy would need to be updated to include the Hopkinton 20 and the Hopkinton 24 and be approved by the school board. Thoughts?
Yes, I mean, I guess, and I've been thinking about this since we talked about it, but like, and again, this is the line of the board versus like the work that the actual staff has to do, but it's like that's like the actual plan, and then it's like, how are we continuing, what are the changes that are improved or enhanced support to non-traditional or vocational pathways, right? Like that's sort of what I think is the delta that we're looking for. And I don't know what that would look like for this district. Like, I haven't worked on voc stuff for like 30 years. So,
the good news is you heard from Mr. Kelly tonight that
yeah.
it's already shifted back to,
Right.
to Becca and CNA.
Yep.
I think the initial discussions when we met over a month ago, feels like, was maybe assuring that the work continues to move forward.
Yeah.
And that it was a board goal to see it through. So how you craft it from not doing the work to making it
To
a
support
goal to
the
see it through.
refurbishing. Yeah.
You can tie it towards Andrea and Rob who are on CNA,
Right.
because it's still, it's like the building goal last year, to
Right.
complete the building goal and blah, 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 whatever, I forget what we worded it, however it may be. So it's essentially almost the same, the work's already in motion, it's there, but we want to make sure we get past, we want to make sure we get it past the finish line. I don't know if that
Right.
helps.
I would leave it exactly as it is. I mean, the only thing I could see is, pushing it forward, and then I think that becomes one of those things, is the more time I give you to do the work, the more time it'll take to do the work. And I would like to see it implemented for students as soon as possible, so.
And I guess the only thing that, I mean, I don't disagree with Rob at all. It's just, at least in the version I have, it's, I mean, will support seems pretty general. So we could say we reached our goal by doing nothing because we didn't not support it. So I guess it's really a question in my mind, what does that term mean, will support? And is there any, like what you said, Andrew, is to change a policy.
Right.
So that's something actionable. We can say we actually did
The
it.
evaluation of the policy.
And if the whole
right.
board checked it
Yeah.
off. So anyway, it's just when I looked at it, I was like, that seems very vague because it's successful but not doing anything. So there are things that we have to do that we want to put in here so we can at least show that
Yeah.
we're doing something other than not doing anything.
Yeah, that works for me.
Wordsmithing as we talk. I added, the school board will support the affirmative, I'm just gonna say, will support the implementation of the multiple pathways to graduation by December break 2022 through the successful update and implementation of policy IKF.
Can we say expect instead of support?
Expect.
Affirm the implementation.
Say it
We
again.
will,
You can affirm the implementation, just flip the words you have.
the school board will affirm the implementation of the multiple pathways to graduation by December break of 2022 through the successful update and implementation of policy IKF.
Well,
And approval.
did we say implementation twice?
We did, I changed it to approval.
Okay.
How's that work? Now people can see why this took us
That feels
multiple
good.
hours. Excellent. All right, and then, I lost my train of thought. So anything else for the first one? I'm just gonna keep going through, I'm gonna read them all. So the next one, the finance one, we had talked, Mike just talked about our strategic plan, and it was really important to us that finance was woven through every component of our strategic plan. It is, as a board, of course, it is always something that we are considering. So for our finance goal this year, it's similar to the one we had last year. The school board, working through the finance committee, will work to minimize the Hopkinton School District fund balance while maintaining tax rate stability. How's that sounding to folks?
Is there a difference between reduce and minimize?
Because we can't,
Because yeah, continue.
well, no, because like, I think that I don't know if we can move to as.
We
like,
can't reduce it to
We
zero.
can't eliminate, right, like, that's not the word eliminate, so it's,
And we're not really reducing the fund balance, we're reducing the use of the fund balance as a revenue. Is that?
right.
I think minimize still fits better, because we're going for a minimal fund balance. A minimal but not unreasonable.
Reserve fund.
Well, this is the fund balance, so this is the undesignated fund balance, yep.
Is there a, and I should know this, being on, having previously been on finance, I'm still on finance committee. Is there a target that we have, right? Like, is it 10%, is it 15%? Like, I have no idea. I'm just
This
making
year?
stuff up. Or just in general, like, I know we have a plan for basically being able to minimize it as much as possible.
I think that's
Yeah.
part of our discussion for Thursday.
Right.
Is last year we used about 600,000 as revenue, so what is the projection for what we can do?
Yeah.
How about, I mean, is it crazy to work to continue to minimize? I mean, that's the goal. We knew this was a multiple year process. And if we're able to reduce it through appropriate budgeting, then we're hitting that goal again.
I really do think it needs to say minimize the use of the fund balance.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Jim, you're.
That sounds fine to me.
around the
Yeah.
line,
That's really,
you know.
that sounds great.
All right. Got it. So the school board, working through the finance committee, will work to minimize the use of the Hopkinton School District fund balance while maintaining tax rate stability.
Take out the
Can I just say we will minimize
Yeah.
the use of the Hopkinton
Sure.
School District fund balance? Okay. Are you enjoying our wordsmithing? Just getting a little, this So exciting there. All right, safety and security. So this has been a big one for us. I know it's a focus of the district and also a focus of the board this year. So we came up with the school board working through the superintendent. This actually doesn't, it's not a sentence that makes sense. The school board working through the superintendent, goal of completing a safety action plan by January 15th, 2023, in order to present a fiscally responsible, safety-focused warrant at the March 2023 annual school district meeting.
So, yeah.
I think it
we'll
was
complete-
with a goal.
With a goal. We'll complete a safety action plan.
Yeah, that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll complete a safety action plan. Yep.
Okay.
We're under the
Safety
impression
action.
in order to do this, it's gonna have to be through a warrant. I just wanna make sure that that's going in there, that there's anticipation that it's gonna be a warrant at the district meeting. So I just wanna know if we wanna word it differently, in case of we don't need a warrant, we can do it some other way.
I don't think we know if it's gonna be a warrant or
Yeah,
not,
so we
because
should probably.
we've applied
take
for some
warrant.
grants and we don't know what the plan is.
Because you don't want people to assume, oh, they're gonna have a warrant. You haven't got there yet without knowing the cost or anything.
Well, right, and ultimately it could just go underneath the CIP warrant.
Correct. So I think we need to kind of eliminate the word warrant and maybe find another way of capitalizing on it. How we're gonna do it. Sorry to throw that wrench in there.
Fiscally responsible, safety focused.
I guess.
Implementation
I guess
plan,
in my
yeah.
mind, I'd rather let people know ahead of time that a warrant might be happening, like that just might be a reality. And if it comes to the meeting and we don't need it, we can say we did not, you'll notice we did not find a warrant and we did it because A, B, C.
I think if we just say a fiscally responsible plan at the March 23rd, strike the safety focused in the warrant. It could be a warrant, it could be a mix of a warrant and a grant.
Because the line below is the part where the financial support can be anything. It could be a warrant that we need to implement at the district meeting. That's where the financial piece comes in there, on how we're gonna.
Yeah, but I think changing it to plan, it ties the sentence together. I think that's fine, right? Like, it's like a fiscally responsible plan. That's just saying that that safety action plan will be done with.
So we're now saying that at our meeting, at our annual school district meeting, we're gonna present a plan to everybody. Just testing that out. Is that what we're looking to do?
Well, it's gonna represent a plan that they're gonna vote on, and there's gonna be financial support in our next budget to support that plan. And we don't know what it's gonna come from. It could be from a warrant, it could be from CIP, it could be from anything. I just don't wanna put the word warrant in there and have it already been defined as, we already know what we're gonna do it.
Well, CIP is a warrant, right? And so I just think we're going to come forward with something that's safety focused,
Yeah.
that's going to be voted on, which is what a warrant is. And so I'm comfortable with warrant because it's telling people in March we're coming forward to ask you for cash to fund the safety plan. So anyway, I'm comfortable with things. All the things we've talked about is a warrant. It could be a bond, because you're thinking of a bond as a warrant.
Yeah.
The CIP is a warrant, the budget's a warrant. It's all the topic of it's all topic that we're asking people to vote on.
It's a good point.
I guess
I just, when I say,
be a
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Your chip.
I just say when I see the word plan, I think it's gonna sit on a shelf, we're not gonna do anything about it. Warren tells me we're gonna ask people to vote on something. Plan just means we're gonna give you a plan, and it might be cute, and you might never see it again. I think, at least my thinking as a board member is I wanna bring something tangible that we're gonna ask the town to vote on. And that's what a warrant is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Fair enough.
Excellent.
All right.
Jim
Back,
Sullivan.
back to Warren. All right, so the school board, working through the superintendent, will complete a safety action plan by January 15th in order to present a fiscally responsible, safety-focused warrant at the March 2023 annual school district meeting.
Great.
All right. So going along with that, our second safety and security goal this year is the school board will provide financial support in our next budget for improved safety district-wide. Like this.
So I guess the question on that second one, is that redundant with the first one?
So you're kind of over.
Well, yeah, just, is it redundant?
Yeah.
That feels redundant to me. That's
Yeah.
what we just said, but with more words
Yeah.
previously.
So
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the target on the second one was more of an objective this year if we wanted to approach you, if we didn't win the grant, right? So if we didn't win the grant for locks or whatever, we talked about the opportunity of coming forward and Michelle maybe finding money within. So I don't remember, that one's kind of getting together on me, but I felt like it was more of a near target.
But that would be within our current budget.
But that could be, oh, for expenditure out of this,
This year.
Right, yeah, that would be a current budget expenditure.
Michelle, could a safety and security be a one-time expense at the end of the year? Let's say the warrant didn't pass, and we had a surplus, and we had a dollar amount based on the plan. Could the school board provide some financial support in our next tax, whatever, I don't, budget, whatever, but I'm just saying, if there's a surplus at the end of the year, could we use it as a one-time expense?
So if there's a warrant specific and the voters vote no, you cannot use any money.
Okay.
No means no, is what they kind of use the language of.
So my question is this, the first part speaks to a specific warrant, a specific plan, restructuring an entry, something of that nature. The second part may be something that we're building into next year's budget as a line, which would be different,
Okay, maybe that was it.
you know? So, and as we're going through that process,
But-
and
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
we have an X percentage increase, and we're gonna talk about this part team, because we think we need to do new locks, and maybe bulletproof glass at one of the entries.
But wouldn't that all just be added to the CIP in theory? I mean, that's upgrades to the building and facilities. And that should go into the CIP planning. Like, I think there is strategic work that needs to happen to figure out how that happens, but
Right.
long-term, these are facilities upgrades in the same way that we do facilities upgrades for the purpose of like straight-up education, music, sports. It would be the same thing where safety should be a part of that plan.
I guess it's a matter of which bucket we want to pay for it out of. Do we want to pay for it out of the operating budget? Do we want to pay for it out of CIP? Do we want to pay for it out of, I guess that's where.
And maybe this speaks to two different buckets then.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, do we currently have a safety bucket in the CIP? It's like security and safety.
It's
No, but if it's an asset upgrade, it should be. Like, if it was gonna be like a human, that needs to go into an operational budget. But if it's like you're changing a piece of a building, that is a capital asset, and it should be under there.
Maybe wordsmithing, we could add something, financial support in our an upcoming budget as well as in the CIP, something like that, just to capture both pieces.
Yeah.
Because it could be an annual
Right.
expense.
That's right.
Training, that kind of thing.
Right, because it's operational and capital.
I just don't know if locks would have ever made it into the CIP.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we've got a FF, like it should, yeah.
My gut is, I don't know what the value is, but my gut is that it probably would potentially,
If it's over 5K, then it would go in there.
It was $67,000.
Yeah, so that's CIP, yeah.
So
By-
just
By mandate, yeah.
just cleared.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so we're good with that. The school board will provide financial support in our next budget as well as in the CIP for improved safety district-wide. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so the next one, I think we need to talk a little bit more about as well. So communication, the school board will provide financial support in our next budget for improved communication district-wide that will focus on, and then just dots, no question mark. So I think this one tied into, actually I had this pulled up. It's a strategic plan. It's under culture and climate. and it's our third goal, which is the Hopkinton School District will seek to increase the quality and quantity of all forms of communication disseminated at every level of the school district. And I know as a board, we've talked about how we just really want to, we've had a focus on improving communication. We have, you know, as a board, we have constraints because we have legal constraints as far as what we ourselves can do. But as a district, we really want to make sure that we have an informed community. So I don't know what we want to focus this on. Thoughts?
There's two ways that we can do communication.
I'm ready.
I think about this and I'm looking at Norm's chicken scratch. One is, I think, continuing the work that I think the district did really nicely last year, which is proactive outbound communication in the form of parent patrol, other things that come out of the community, et cetera, as well as potentially doing self-service inbound, like website development, et cetera, so that members of the community who might not be on various other listservs can come in and still get those updates in a way that feels like it's accessible to them, right?
A lot of the archiving part of it, like people want to be able to look at 2025, 2015, what was this archived easily, you'll find things. So.
All right, so I'm hearing website improvements, and I'm hearing communication with parents and community. And as a board, we can do budget and we can do policy. So we won't be updating specifically, but we can say what exactly we would like to have updated.
I like the idea of like the external communication. So if I were to focus, it would be externally. Would do work that's getting the community more engaged, understanding of what we're doing. I think that includes like communication around our budget committee stuff. And I think of like this internal and external communication. We may have an internal communication challenge, but I think now, if I were to put money on the table, it would be to help us with our external work, and then maybe revisit the internal work later on.
Yeah.
As sort of a priority.
It's like the scalability and accessibility of information.
Yeah, and it could be the website. I mean, it could be a gazillion
Can it
things.
be a person or something like that? Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it's really, at least my brain is like, how do we do better externally communicating? And there's a bunch of tools that we can use, like website and all that. But it's really, to me, it's a focus on that type of.
Because my impersonation is when we vote on this, Mike's going to come back and he's going to say, these are the things that I'm taking from this, and this is what I'm going to. So he could say, my goal is to, in order to meet this with the website, or do this, and have a discussion with us. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nice kind of part about these goals is we have the strategic plan that we've sort of used to make our goals. Mike will make his goals. And then I think it goes to administrators, principals, teachers, committees. Our committees are all going to have goals this year.
Yeah, like you said, so just using communication example, if communication is a goal, even though you're talking about budgetary, when you talk about external, so was my office doing better to do it? What are the principals doing better to do it? And then what are the teachers doing with their classrooms? So that's how that would go down the chain, so to speak. I mean, not that we're great at it yet, but we're improved. Our Facebook has gotten a lot better. I mean, we're sharing stories daily, possibly. That's what we're trying to get towards. So it's just the start of things. But if you guys are going to create something like that, that's how that would go from me to so forth.
So to talk about the external and the internal, I think, financially, we're going to talk external, probably talk human resources to make sure things are getting disseminated the way they should instead of everybody trying to hodgepodge it together. I think we have to address the internal. When we looked at the cost of Slack, and it's just not, well, I shouldn't say it's not, it's expensive. So are we willing, do we think that that's meaningful enough?
Apogee is the other one that I sat through, and it was about $11,500.
So you think it should say we'll focus on external and internal communication?
Well, I think we need to give Mike direction as to where we want him to go. And I, for one, think that internal communications for that type of stuff is a really good tool to get away from using email for staff to be communicating with one another.
So we should do external and internal? Because he's going to take it, he's going to come back with how he's going to distribute it.
I think it's both, if I'm just being really honest.
I think it's both.
Yeah. There's no question that we hear from our community on things, and then we also hear from, it is a, how do I this isn't a Hopkinton problem, this is a new for our profession problem. In the business worlds where you guys all live most times, you have the multiple means of communication within the system. Teaching is a challenging profession because a lot of the times you're in your classroom, what's going on, what am I missing? But then also the parents are, what's going on, what am I missing? So in the age of communication, our profession is just starting to catch up to the expectation of instant news, instant information, eliminating all of paper, right? That's COVID forced us a lot in that direction. So when you think communication, I do think all the way from our office to the buildings to the classrooms to, I mean, Michelle and I were talking the other day, how do we make permission slips digital? All of the, it's all communication, so.
I mean, I think it's fine. It's all going to come down to what we can afford in a budget. And so I think it's great to look at both, and then we'll decide what we can do and what we can't do.
All right. So that one's good. I did update it too. We're going to focus on both internal and external communication. All right, moving along, we've got sustainability. This is also directly from our strategic plan. We have the school board will create and implement a board-led energy management planning committee with a goal of completing an energy action plan by January 15th, 2023. There's a lot happening by January 15th. That was the day that we were focused on, apparently. All right. Thoughts on this one? I love it. Great.
I like it too. My question is when this plan is produced, is this a two-step process? Because is this board gonna support it through financially or something? How do we execute this plan? I guess is the question. As part of the goal once it comes.
Yeah.
You know, because if we are preparing something for January 15th, and there needs to be a dollar amount set aside for that, and we are doing our budget process, how are we going to tie the two together as a commitment? Because kind of going back to what you said, Jim, you can have a plan and you don't act on it. So that would be my question for the board.
The only way to do it would just be to have it done earlier, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's realistic.
I don't either. I think January 15th is pushing it.
It's really freaking tight. I do think that it will be a multi-year energy action plan.
Okay.
Like, this is not, we are not going to achieve sustainability in 12 months.
In one budget cycle.
As a tax constrained school district. And I think that that's part of the work of what this committee will do in conjunction with finance, CIP, and all the other work that we have.
Yeah.
Like, this is definitely going to be a long range.
Yeah.
I also have a question about that. Is it like a plan, like a policy that you would be making? Or is it like you would be making a warrant article or something that you put in the budget?
Yeah, so I can share a couple of these with you. We looked at a couple of different plans that other school districts have done, and they've really they do the full energy audit to see the areas that they can improve on.
So a full energy audit would be like a starting point for this?
I think the committee would really, I'm pointing at other people, because I'm not going to be on the committee, but I'll point to you as well. So I think the committee would really determine what would be needed to put into the plan, and then the plan would be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it could be as we need to decrease the temperatures in the schools during these hours. We need to make sure that lights have auto off switches. Those are kind of like the low hanging fruits, but it also can be we need to, I don't want to say something too crazy and have people get upset. We need to do this big thing, and that will have a big sustainability impact. So I think it's sort of all the things. It probably, there would probably be a policy aspect of it, but that would be, I think, once the plan was created.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
I sort of
yeah.
walked around it. And
Well, it's kind of.
Flo would also like to be on the committee.
I think she's going to be on it.
Great.
But not.
And Noah.
No one's great.
But all the stuff you're talking about, the plan is going to be part of the plan. Like, we have to develop
Yes.
the
Yeah.
plan to
Yes.
provide
That's correct.
targets and
Yes.
goals. So you're trying to set trying to set goals that we don't have anything yet.
Yeah.
So allow the work to move quickly, and then you'll get those targets.
So I think by the 23-24 school.
Is there a reason why we chose, I can't remember why we chose January for that one.
I feel like we chose all the Januaries because you guys would remember better, but like I thought it was because we thought that we could be, if there were asks that needed to get into place prior to a warrant, that we would be able to do that.
Yeah, because I think the deadline's like February something.
Yeah.
You know,
So we could get into a
Well,
budget meeting. Yeah.
It depends. For instance, if it was a bond, this would be way too late, I believe, because of the fact that there needs to be bond hearings by certain dates, as well as the public hearing that the budget committee has, which is usually like the first Wednesday or so of February, I believe, early February. They would need to have all the warrants to actually then review and then make recommendations on.
Right.
It's arbitrary.
Yeah. I feel
But also, January's a target.
Yeah.
Depends on how deep the work goes. Like, we won't know until we start.
That's right.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and then I think we can come back and say, well, we did complete it by January 15th, or we didn't, here's why, and.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else on this one? Great. Moving on, we have personnel. The school board, working through the superintendent, will establish multiple pipelines to recruit, attract, and retain the highest quality personnel. And this also, I believe, ties directly to our strategic plan. Though, of course, I can't find it immediately. Is this specific enough?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, what's our job in this
All right.
one?
So I think, I don't want to go back to the first one because I think it's different than the first one. I think this one speaks to, you guys are going to help the district, whether it's me or whatever we establish, to say, yeah, that's a good idea, or no, there's no way we're going to be able to do something like that. I think last year, the board did a great job of communicating the why behind negotiations and consistent updates on why this was occurring or why we increased the benefits. I think this is another one it's good for the board to keep at their level as board work, because the operating budget, we'll talk about it on Thursday, but I think we have really good ideas of what we're trying to do. But then there's things that we're gonna have to start to do in this market and in this profession to continue to make sure that we have fully staffed buildings, high quality candidates, and those things might alter as we work through the process. So I like the goal with having the board on the same page of that one. So I don't think you need much wordsmithing. I know my question now is, what would Jim say? I say that a lot now, but what would Jim say is, how do we know if we're doing our job or not? Or how do we make sure we're doing what we're supposed to? And I think this one will work out through not just budgeting, but appropriate policy that we're working on, and how you're continuing to support the staff and the students through the work.
I'll speak really clearly for this one, I think, is that my expectation is that come late winter, early spring, that the superintendent is telling us how he's going out to bring in new staff, how we're marketing ourselves as a good place to work. I mean, we all know the worm has changed here, right? It's not 30 teachers trying to get your attention. It's now 30 schools trying to get a couple of people's attention, and we want to get those. So I would expect that plan from the superintendent, or at least not the plan, but what's the execution look like?
Sure.
That's how I'm seeing this goal being acted upon.
Yeah. So we did pull this, I was right, we did pull this right from the strategic plan. So this falls under curriculum, instruction, and assessment. It is our third goal, that the Hopkinton School District will recruit, recognize, and develop the most effective personnel. It also has 2 objectives underneath them, including the multiple pipelines to recruit, attract, and retain the highest quality personnel, with action steps. So I also think that we were trying to specifically point to the strategic plan and the action steps that are in there for those to be worked on. Did you want me to read those action steps, or are we good? Okay. I can read anything. Would it be helpful for me to tie this in or like relate it in some way to the strategic plan, like as related to the strategic plan, you know, curriculum and assessment, objective 3, goal 1, whatever. That feels very nitty gritty as I'm speaking it out loud.
Well, I don't know if we're actually gonna post these, if it does make sense to call out which goals correlate to what.
I was thinking that we could do, I mean, that's all labeled in the strategic
Yeah,
plan, so we can
totally.
do 2A, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, for all of them, because I
Once we
think it
finalize mine.
lets people sort of track through it, which is
Okay,
nice.
so we'll leave it as is, and then I agree, kind of tagging it to the strategic plan specific sections will be helpful. The second goal is the school board will reevaluate and update the annual superintendent evaluation process by the end of February 2023. I think that one's pretty straightforward. We have a plan, it hasn't been updated in a long time. Time for us to update it.
Yep.
Yep. All right, anything else under personnel? All right, the final one, again, comes on over from last year. We have over 400 policies, and so auditing all policies is a little bit too high of a bar. So we're gonna say the school board, working through the policy committee, will audit Hopkinton School District policies based on administrative review. And we already have 44 that will need to be updated because of statute changes. And we updated 45 total last year, so there's a lot that we'll be doing this year. All right. That's it. Anything else when it comes to school board goals?
This is great.
We've got 9 of them. That feels,
You guys are raising your bar.
I think we had 9
We had 5
year.
last year.
Oh, no, we had more.
Felt like 5.
I know it's a quick turnaround, Mike, but is your plan, if we approve this tonight, to kind of give us a feel for what you're looking at in our next?
I'll have a draft of mine, if you guys are approving tonight, I didn't know if you were or not.
Yeah.
If you need her to finalize it, that's up to you. If not, then I would have a draft to you for myself by next September 20th.
Great, let's do it.
Great.
Hit it.
Are there any changes?
No.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the 2023 school board goals as drafted and updated tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great.
Oh, you guys are way
Thank
ahead
you,
of schedule
guys.
than last year.
Excellent. And that's it for board goals. Looks like we're passing it to you, Norm.
Yes. So I'm very excited to present to you guys our financial report from the building project. A couple months ago, I asked BPS, Gordon, and Michelle to reconcile the bond project and to be able to deliver this to the community and to the budget committee for them to be able to see all the change orders, the savings from the project. And what's important in accounting is when you deliver a number of what's come back, it's important to have a paper trail to show that, reflect that. And in this report, we are able to deliver the amount that's been reported back to the community in the form of a financial report. So I want to thank Michelle really for doing an excellent job keeping track of this, working really hard with Gordon Bristol and with BPS in order to reconcile this so the community can see what we did with the bond. And I'm very thankful for them approving that. And this closes the book now on this project. This is the final report. As discussed moving forward, the money coming back from this project will be discussed in this board meeting, in our board meeting, and where it's going to go and all that stuff. And that's it. It's just exciting to see and closes our report.
Excellent.
It's amazing.
Oh, this looks great. And then do you need approval from us tonight? Or
Michelle,
just wanted
so
to-
Michelle signed off on it.
Okay.
She reconciled it with BPS, so it's approved, it's done. I mean, I would like it to be published to the community so the community can see everything. And I will be bringing this to the budget committee because I told them it was coming. But I'm happy to make the motion for the Hopkinton School Board to approve the final report, the final contract financial report for the building project as presented.
I'll move that.
Second.
Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on it. Any discussion? Thank you for seeing this through.
I know that we had talked about last year, I like for the financial report, I think this is excellent. I think that you had talked about doing like a photo book or something like that sort of like closes out the narrative also for the website and like documenting what the work is, so people can see it.
Yep, that's some stuff are still in the works.
Great.
And we're getting there. There's a couple other things in the pipeline.
Awesome.
But this is a biggie one just to kind of.
It's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, great. There's no other discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved. Thank you very much, Norm. All right. And Becca.
I'm gonna stand up and stretch first.
Welcome to our board meetings.
All right, I'm going to stay to my 10 minutes, maybe cut it a little bit shorter, but just in the board materials, hopefully you've seen my little executive summary synopsis of professional development to date. So as Patrice had kind of alluded to when she, directly told you about when she gave her comments, we did 3 days of professional development last week. They were full, but they were productive, and we got some really good feedback from them, which I appreciated a lot. I appreciated the honesty that came forward so that we can kind of continue to shape things. This one was a little bit tricky because we already had a lot of things scheduled by the end of last year. So when I came into the position and started talking about these days, people said, oh, we have illustrative mass scheduled, we have early bird, we have artist in residence, which was amazing. So all these little things were already in the works. And we originally had a district-wide safety meeting scheduled, but then made a great decision by Mike and the chief to break it up by school and to make it a little more personalized for each of the buildings, and have a better, more direct conversation relevant to the buildings. So it was a very fun scheduling puzzle. Since I didn't do the master schedule at the middle high school, at least I got to do the schedule and fit them all together, which was good to do. So out of that training, definitely have some great ideas for formats for summer curriculum next summer, for the opening days next year. I heard very clearly and absolutely agreed some more time for collaboration, teamwork, getting to know the new staff on a department or on a grade level basis would have been great. So adding that in. One of the interesting highlights was the mandatory trainings. They definitely created a little bit of a buzz leading into those first 3 days, but this was the first year that we were able to pull together a very comprehensive list of all the trainings required of schools by either the state or by our local policies. And through some work and support from Michelle and Mike, we were able to purchase a program that afforded us the opportunity to have staff members, all staff members, take those trainings a little bit more flexibly and a little bit more on different time schedules. So it didn't all have to be on the first day, sitting in the big faculty room, learning about bloodborne pathogens right out of the gate. But those are the things we need to do. So the exciting, in all fairness, it's 6 hours of training. That's a little over 6 hours and 13 minutes, I think, if I'm going to be very precise. That's a lot of training, but that is what we need to do in order to meet all of our statutes and requirements. So we carved out a little bit of time, understanding that it was bringing a little angst in those first couple days, and we didn't want that. We did carve out some time. It did compromise some of our collaboration time in order to do that. Since then, we've carved out some other times, so that by the date that we've set of October 15th, we do believe that we've provided very close to that 6 hours of time for people to be able to do those trainings. It's a little bit of choice whether you take the time that we've allotted. For instance, we didn't do faculty meetings today. We just had faculty meetings last week. Didn't really need to do them again, but that is district time that was set aside for a meeting. So in lieu of faculty meeting this afternoon, there was an hour of time available for mandatory trainings. If people wanted to go home a little early, then on their own time somewhere they can find the hour of time to do the mandatory trainings. We will look at our professional development days overall next year and how we kind of fit mandatory trainings in a little differently. So this year it was an awkward overlay, fully acknowledge that up front, but it is nice to be able to say that we have a way of ensuring every single faculty and staff member in the Hopkinton School District has exposure to the required trainings, has the ability to complete them in a way that is comfortable and at their own pace, and we have the accountability of, on the record keeping end, seeing everybody who's done every one of those trainings and being able to hold that as an accountability piece. So that's kind of a neat thing. Overwhelmingly, some of the professional development that was offered, we did do online. Overwhelmingly, people are tired of online. I get it, I understand. So, while it was set up because that's what we had available, we will really look at that as a consideration point moving forward to make sure that what we do is more personalized and live people. I ran a little bit of an experiment at the middle high school while the elementary schools were doing their math training. We did some mini workshops at the high school to kind of bring in some abilities for people who are doing amazing things, to kind of showcase that for their colleagues, to kind of highlight some of the different programs that we have available to us. And that seemed to go over really well. People really enjoyed that format of having some choice. There was selections that you could choose from. You attended 3 different sessions. The whole idea was to learn something, have some time to practice it, have some time to reflect on, plan with it, and figure out, moving forward, how might that be used in your day-to-day work. So looking forward to October 7th, which is our next PD day, probably going to follow a little bit of that model. So another piece, I should say, that was really exciting in the feedback was how many people want to collaborate vertically, want to talk curriculum. I was very relieved to hear that. It was really exciting. So I've started maybe outside of the professional development realm a little bit, but just in this work, I've started meetings. I've met with the literacy staff from across the district. I've met with the math staff from across the district. We have an SEL and wellness committee or staff, I should say, that will be getting together to do some work, all in the spirit of this year, kind of defining what we're doing and at what point in students' education. And then next year, we're going to overlay a level of the actual students moving through the experience. So understanding that the curriculum may change year to year a bit based on the actual group of students in front of you. But this year, we're going to do a lot talking about that K-12 continuum for all the curriculum. So our professional development days are going to include an element of curriculum, some vertical teaming, which means we're going to go not just all the kindergarten teachers meeting together and the 5th grade teachers meeting together, but looking at kindergarten through grade 12, all the teachers who teach math talking together about math, or all the teachers who teach social studies talking together about social studies, so we can kind of have those continuums. So we're going to do a little bit of that work. We'll do a little bit of choice work, And continue with the strategic plan and the goal around safety and security, we're going to do a little bit of work on that when we talk about our October 7th Professional Development Day. We are going to work with staff on the ICS 100, which is the Incident Command Systems training that's offered by FEMA. So we'll, as we talked about in our safety meetings in each of the schools, we're going to support our staff through taking that course. It's about a 2-hour course. We get certified at the end of it, so we'll support our staff going through that on October 7th. So that is the professional development realm. If there's more in this that you have questions about, happy to answer those. As far as mentoring,
Can I just, real
Yeah.
quick? So, safety and security is a theme. You hear it throughout the buildings now, everyone's aware of it. Some significant changes from where we were to where we're going. So when you hear 6 minutes, 6 hours and 13 minutes, that's for real. When you hear 2 more hours is coming, that's for real. It's significant though. We're taking the baseline as 0. So people may have been here for 10 or 15 years, but we're making sure that everyone has reestablished what it is. With our program, it allows us next year not to have to do a full training. It'll be a refresher training, right? So it's not 6 hours and 13 minutes every year. It'll be 6 hours and 13 minutes for a new employee, right? But not every employee. And just to put it in perspective, when we keep talking about trainings, I think it's important to hear out loud what we're doing. So bullying, recognition and response, cyberbullying, discrimination awareness in the workplace, email and messaging safety, FERPA, confidentiality and records, first aid, medication administration, school violence, identifying and addressing, sexual harassment, policy and prevention, Title IX compliance, youth suicide awareness, prevention, and then the default for us is bloodborne pathogen, because if you're in our profession, that's what it is. So, and then you talk about the ICS, Incident Command, that we may be the only district in the state of New Hampshire where all employees are trained in ICS 100. Then our safety Incident Command teams that we're going to implement, they'll go on to the 200 level training. So it's those layers that we're putting in to make sure that we're creating a safe learning environment for staff and students. So Becca's done a phenomenal job of finding the program, implementing it. Yes, there's been substantial discussion around the length of time, but knowing that that won't be it every year, we're establishing a new baseline, and we feel really good. There were several people that did it on the first day, right? If you're that, you have it done, and then, so we're working with staff to provide the opportunity, but it definitely allows us to say we are trained significantly in this. Nice job.
yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for that. In terms of mentoring, this is our first year of a formalized mentoring program. We have about 17 new staff and mentors participating. So we're going to, they have monthly kind of checklists of things that they'll go through together to support each other. Mentors are not necessarily somebody from that person's department or grade level. It's just someone else in the building who has some experience in the building and can share a building level understanding with you. So it kind of is a great way for people to possibly break outside of their small department where they're already getting support and to kind of see the perspective of a third grade teacher as a kindergarten teacher or something like that. So we'll be meeting more formally with all of the mentors to kind of roll this out and make sure that they're all comfortable and supported and what they need to then support their mentees. But already a bunch of them have been connecting, and it's been kind of fun to get that feedback from them.
That's great.
Questions?
Any
Comments?
questions for Ms. Gagnon?
Awesome.
Good job, so exciting.
It's cool. It really is fun.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the training that you're doing. I know it's really hard to start at ground zero, but I think it's really important.
So my one small brag point in all of this, going with Mike's theme of organization and structure, I love organization and structure. And so for me, it made a lot of sense to create one centralized Google document that has all the agendas for everybody, for every training, all in one place. So page 1, if you can envision it, as a table of contents with hyperlinks to each of the different days and the agendas, and that was very well received by people. So I really appreciated that people in the feedback said they loved the agenda and they loved how all the links they needed were there, all the materials were there that they needed. They knew where to go, and
it's
we're
there all
going to
year.
work to personalize it a little bit more for related service people and things like that. But I think it was a pretty decent first go, if I'm allowed to say that, and I think it'll be, yes, an excellent resource throughout the year for people to have.
So it allows you to go back, right?
Yeah.
What did I do? Where was it at? Where's the link?
Yep.
It's another live document.
I just want to say, the training piece, you're right. Those first 3 days, people want to be in their classroom, they want to do work, there's things we have to do. So it sounds like you're moving in a good direction. They're making all those parts move. In terms of the safety and security, I've always felt that the school district should have had a more passive approach than I certainly ever wanted to see, and I feel like we're now taking a very active approach. I very much appreciate that, and I hope the community does as well.
Thank you. Excellent.
Moving on?
Yep, moving on.
All right.
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda.
7:10.
We're only
It's funny.
43 minutes behind. We're on time. Consent agenda. So moving on to personnel. If you are looking at Schedule B, you will notice that there is one in there, and that is Dan Mazur. He did get some hits when we sent out for JV soccer, and we had great leads, but fingerprinting just prevented anything. Fingerprinting is really destroying a lot in our profession.
Because people don't want to get their
No,
fingerprints.
because I have someone who put one in on August 1st and it still hasn't been cleared.
Yeah.
So the state's behind. So that is why Dan, I said God bless him, is stepping up and working with the JV soccer team. So you'll see Dan on that. Moving on to resignations and hires.
Wait, and do we have hits for the girls varsity soccer assistant and the cross-country assistant varsity? Is that just pending fingerprints, or are those just open?
Those are still open, yep.
Okay.
Moving on to new hires and resignations, you'll see the list of names. Carrie mentioned them tonight. Everyone made it on there, right?
Yes, that I'm aware of. Because we had some back on August 16th.
Yeah, I was just making sure it was on there. Okay, I'm just confirming the name, we're good. All right. So you'll see our IAs that we mentioned earlier, as well as a couple that has departed. And then last on there would be,
Hold on.
yeah,
Are we full on IAs now? What's left to fill there?
one.
This is what I heard from Carrie.
One from Carrie, I think one from Patrice.
Oh, okay.
So we're looking for a new coach for basketball. Is that read that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Yeah. So any of those questions would have to go into non-public? Okay. And then finally would be our safety nominations, so our playground monitor, AM crossing guard, PM crossing guard for Maple Street. I know where you're going, but go ahead and say it.
So for these positions, they're existing staff members who are taking on additional responsibility in these roles.
Correct.
Okay, great. That's exciting. Oh, well, yeah, and I had another question.
I thought,
Yeah.
I thought that's where you were going.
Well, yes, yes, I had a question just for the rest of the board about a crossing guard at Harold Martin, because there's increased traffic on Main Street up there. But we could figure out what a good solution would be. There's a lot of walkers.
Yeah, so I talked to Michelle about that earlier today. And to her knowledge, we've never had one, correct?
Correct.
So my advice would be we'll discuss it at the Safety and Security Committee.
Great.
And if a recommendation possibly comes from them, we can go through that process appropriately.
Okay, cool.
Bless you.
Could the other thing that we do, I know she put out a notice, but maybe just like remind parents that there are small children crossing the road and don't around the corner into Harold Martin at Mach 90.
Oh, God.
Sure.
And we can also put something out maybe by Susan Covert of School is in Session, if people want to look out for tiny humans.
There's also no blinking light there, which I've always wondered why.
There is a blinking
Isn't there?
light.
Does it
I don't know
ever
if it's on.
work? It never
We can check
works.
with Chief, and then I know. I was
And the
telling Mike-
crosswalk is all faded as well.
Yeah.
So those are all state roads.
Yeah.
I can't even put a light on without permission from the state, so we'd have to apply for the 25-mile-an-hour school zone. So
We already have it.
okay.
That's already 25, Chief said.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I can work with Chief and Neil on all of that.
Yeah.
That blinking light, that was been an issue for years.
Never
I mean,
on.
that
Never on.
we've gone to the state before. And
We have multiple times the facility, the
Yeah.
director of facilities.
Yeah.
And it works for a while, then it doesn't work. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, there's someone that we know who is
Oh.
working very well with the state
Oh,
roads.
great,
All right.
nice.
All right, any questions on personnel? Okay. Moving quickly on to the superintendent's report. Okay, I closed all my notes. All right. George Park fence. I met with Neil Cass last week, and it had to do with, obviously, the product. So the product is in, and that work should begin this month on the removal and the inserting of the new George Park fence. All right, that is to echo, that is a town thing and not an us thing.
Yeah.
So they are the ones that are doing the work, all that, so.
Can I just do just a
Sure.
quick update on that? I've also asked, in October, we're gonna have our joint meeting, and I asked that the select board kind of just present to us. I know that there's a plan for George Park, but just present it to us, so we'll all be on the same page as well.
Great.
Have you determined the date for that?
I believe it's October 11th.
Yeah, I think
It's at the top. Did I add it to the top?
that's great, because I was wondering what.
No, I
my
didn't yet.
family-
Yeah, it'll be October 11th, so Jody will post that tomorrow. It was on your
Already
list.
did.
Yep. Oh, you already did. So October 11th is the joint meeting. The meeting will go from 5:30 to 6:30 joint, and then our board meeting will start at 6:30. They are coming to our night again. It's nice of them. So. All right, electric school bus application, we completed this summer. So with the new federal grants, we applied for 9 school buses. They are not our school buses. We operate through First Student, but the way the grant application was set up, the districts themselves had to put in for it. So working with First Student, they were outstanding. We completed those applications. This is kind of like the safety grant. I have no idea who's going to get the money. I don't know where it's allocated towards. What they said is we'll be lucky if we get 1.
And how much do we ask for?
3 million in buses, so we'll be lucky if we get 1, maybe 2, maybe we get none, but that seems to be the general theme.
1 million?
1 bus.
One bus.
1 bus of the fleet. Harold Martin sign, I'm sure everyone's noticed driving
Looks
through
amazing.
town. Yeah, so
Yeah, it looks really great.
that's
good.
PTA at its finest,
Yeah.
supporting that. It's gorgeous. I know PTA is in the work for some other things possibly, but what I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but what a difference. And I promise you that the community will never see the kindergarten registration melting sign again. We are going to improve on that practice as well. I can promise you that. We had mentioned the heat at the start of school, so we're doing the same as we did last year. We're monitoring them, so Mr. Rizicki, along with his team, is monitoring it. I know Rob's sitting to the right of me and I can see him, but the 4th and 5th floors we've been monitoring specifically. The good part was we were able to leave windows open because of good weather, which cooled it down. I think the height of those days was around 87, which is always challenging. Harold Martin, I think our height was around 84, 85 in some of the warmer areas. We try and do our best job to relocate as necessary to areas that are cooler. I can see that coming up again in the CIP, especially with Mr. Rizicki. He has some ideas. And I know we did the cooling study, but just so the families are aware, we're continuing to monitor as always. Looks like a pretty good week coming up. Free and reduced lunch, as you mentioned earlier, you'll hear a second hint from us coming out to reach out to community members to apply. It is not free this year. That program ended as of June 30th. So summer school had to work through that stuff too. So we'll send that out again. In here, you heard Mr. Kelly and actually Ms. Sindoni talk about scheduling. We're going to be in a little bit of an audit process for the middle high school in regards to scheduling. What that will look like to be strictly a middle school schedule rather than overlapping. It's kind of the work we've been doing in regards to program studies, but I think it's necessary for the community to know that we're evaluating it for the purposes of students in the learning, whether it be study halls, how do we reduce study halls or minimize. That goes into the duty schedule. So there's a lot of things that go in with the master schedule, and Carrie did it unannounced. It's challenging for that building, and it's challenging for Harold Martin. So as she said, there's a lot of constraints within this district based on personnel. And so we're going to try and see if there's a different way of doing things to see. So I just wanted to so everyone to be aware that that's coming, some of the work going on. In the packet is also the overnight trip for DC. That's another thing that.
Yep. I go back to the middle. So
yeah,
there are still middle school teachers that are crossing over teaching high school courses.
Every one of them, I believe.
All but one.
All but one.
Which confounds the schedule.
So to say it out loud for a non-teacher, they teach 4 middle school classes and then they teach 1 high school class. We'll get into these discussions around October, but it's doing a disservice to a middle school model. It's not a true middle school model. So any student that needs their middle school teacher for the time, they might be at the high school for an hour and a half teaching a class. So there's that model, which allows students to grow in 7th and 8th grade, specifically to set them up for success for the high school. It's another challenge for middle school teachers who are, let's say, teaching classes that are out of their wheelhouse because they needed to meet to help support the high school teacher. Not that they're not, but remember, middle school teachers are different than high school teachers. So those are some of those constraints where every one of them but one is teaching 4 and 1 at the high school. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So are you proposing that middle school teachers wouldn't be teaching high school classes?
I would say that could be a possibility of an option that's determined that we should go back to a true middle school. So they would only teach middle school, but that would entail a redesign of what a middle school schedule is. So with 4 sections, let's say 4 sections of math, typical middle schools would have an intervention block, a win block, what I need, a flex block, that allows them more opportunities to get around to their core teachers for extra support, or our higher students getting challenged on maybe some higher level work. But they need to be available, and right now they're currently not available.
Yeah, and I'm also wondering, is the schedule like made by a program, or is it just like a person assigning people to classes when that master schedule is made for everyone?
It's a little bit of both. So we put in constraints, and then requests come in. The computer does its job on where it fits.
Okay.
Because we're a 7 through 12 school, which is entirely different than most high schools creating schedules, we have to carve in when they're available. So again, the personnel is dictating a lot of what our schedule can and cannot look like.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Great question, Flo. All right. We good on any questions on that? I know. Okay. Overnight field trips in your packet, which you heard Chris talk about. They're going to go on twice, resetting the ones that have not been able to go. And then in here, we're going to ask for a public hearing on the 20th, so about 15 minutes before our meeting to discuss ESSER. SLT and leadership have been discussing opportunities to maybe spend on the other $190,000, and we want to make sure we have the public hearing, which is required for ESSER 3, or what number are we on? 3. So just for your own planning purposes, we'll come with proposals, or a proposal, single proposal, however it may be. And then also on there might be a possible building maintenance. This is really early. We had a serious plumbing issue at the SAU That's probably not gonna go away anytime soon. That might need significant things. So I'm working with Mr. Rozicki on, so that's just a possibility. I'm just saying it's out there. So again, that for your scheduling of your lives, you would have to talk about a withdrawal from the maintenance trust fund. Okay. And last on there, a Homeland Security evaluation. Mr. Rozicki has been in touch with Homeland Security in New Hampshire. They are going to be doing a reevaluation of the middle high school, I believe, October 20th. And then I want to say Maple Street. We're going to get 2 of our 3 buildings done this year. So Homeland Security does a complete audit. The last time they did it was 18-19, I believe. We've addressed some of those, as well as have new things. So it'll be part of that. It's going to end up being part of the work for the new school board goals. So,
That's our goal.
So just a heads up on that. And that's it for me. And now it goes on to any questions on Homeland Security. All right, on to Michelle. Pretty simple tonight.
Yeah, I don't have much either. The only thing I will say is that the auditors at some point will be coming back to do the single audit portion of our audit. Not sure when that would be, but I didn't mention that before, so I just wanted to point that out.
And what's that? What's the single audit portion?
So what happens is if we expend more than $750,000 in federal funds, we have to have more in-depth analysis done by the auditors on the different programs, and it is based on major programs. Major versus minor is determined by dollar amount spent.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Any questions for Michelle? Might be beating a dead horse, but Becca, any other updates?
Nothing. Thank you. No?
Yeah.
Is there anything else for us?
Just hang on.
Okay.
I just got a text. And she is on there. Okay, so we're good. So I would ask the school board accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. I'm so glad that we are down to just 2 IA spots. That is a real, in this day and age, that cannot be overstated how wonderful that is. So thank you very much.
And we got some parents after that last push out that we sent out, so we got a couple parents that have signed up.
Great.
So thank you.
That's so fun. All right, so with that portion done, we're gonna go ahead and open up public comment again. So if you would like to make a public comment, come on up. You just need your name and address. If you have any comments for the board. You don't have to.
I just want to make a note that it's pretty difficult to hear the back row there. I can hear you, Norm, as most of you, and Dulcie, not so. So for next meeting, if you can somehow turn your mic on.
I can't even hear you.
Turn up the mics.
Yeah, just turn off the mic.
Yeah, so this is a new setup, and so Matt, the mics, he's already texted me saying that he has a new plan for next week, so it really ended up being the location of the mics. We hadn't sat this way, so we took our best guess, and we'll get better next time.
Great. Okay. With that, I'm gonna go ahead then and close public comment. Other business, old business, and committee updates. Have any of our committees met yet? I don't believe so. No? So I guess the only thing I would say for committees this year that we didn't do last year is in our first meeting, we're asking all of our committees come up with, to your best of your ability, set your dates for the year so that we can publicize those. Set goals for yourself, all dates, all goals. And then we're gonna have one template for our meeting minutes this year. So all of our committees are gonna share the same template, so all of our meeting minutes are gonna look similar. And we'll get that out.
And I'm working with Matt. We're gonna, right on the Hopkinton page, we'll find a home so that each committee is just listed right under there. And then you'll go there. So all the information, all the dates, Jody's already aware. We're gonna get all those live once they come in so that everyone knows what's going on from now until May.
And with committees, because we are all working around our work schedules as well, you know, those dates are subject to change. We will post them appropriately, but if they need to change, we are also all working jobs, so that's understandable. And having babies and life and all that fun stuff. I love it. All right, that's it. Any other business? Anything else that anyone wants to bring up? No? We do not have a need for non-public this evening? No? And so if there's nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting, 8:12. Thank you, guys.